ended up taking a job with Homeland Security Investigations, HSI. Government distrust is already an all-time high. If the American people knew that the CIA worked with a foreign government to kill a former sitting US president, I think about it every day. Like, I never wanted to leave. And I've never said this before. And the reason why I left really was because Myron Gaines, also known as Amrufuddle, that's like my government name, since everyone tries to say, you hide from your government name, which we're going to talk about that here in a second, why I don't use it. So my dad came to the United States somewhere in the 1970s, roughly. He's from Sudan. Both my parents are from Sudan.
Okay.
Well, North Sudan now. It used to be one country, Sudan, but then the Civil War tore it up. So they're from the northern part, the air part. He was a cab driver in New York City growing up. My mom didn't work. And then when we moved to Connecticut, he worked as a security guard for a bit. Then he ended up getting a job with Connecticut Transit.
Okay.
Which is basically, like, think of it as like the public bus company.
Yeah.
For the state of Connecticut.
Okay. So, I mean, do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah. So I have a sister. She is in her residency right now to be a doctor. And then I have a little brother. He just graduated from college. He has like a sales job somewhere in Connecticut, I think, Southern Connecticut. So.
Okay. So, yeah. I mean, ultimately you end up with Homeland Security, like when you were in high school, like, was that like a goal? Did you think or was it just, I want to go into public service of some kind? Or? So
I always knew I wanted to get into law enforcement. I think what really made me want to really get into the feds was after 9/11, right? So I grew up in a Muslim household. My parents were Arab speakers, Muslim, etc. And I just didn't like how the negative impact of how 9/11 made Muslim Arabs look, or Muslims in general. So I was like, man, we need to go after the people that, because to me, I've always been like, I carry one passport. I'm very proud of this country. English is my first language. This country's afforded me a bunch of benefits that I would have never been able to get anywhere else. I was born and raised here, right? This is the only country I know. And my parents have always been really patriotic as well, right? Because they understand that coming here, they got a lot of benefits they wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. So they've always been super respectful and grateful for being here. I remember growing up as a kid, my parents always say, you were born and raised here. You better become a somebody. We didn't come here so that you can be a loser. So, that always kind of instilled in me, like, things could be way worse. And I actually went to Sudan, and I went to Egypt, and I saw how poor it is over there and how terrible it is. And I was like, oh my God, it made me really have a newfound appreciation for the United States.
The opportunities that people have here, they completely take for granted.
Absolutely, man. Like, people are over here crying about, like, my Wi-Fi slow. I'm like, dude, like, you don't even know. So I'm really glad that in my childhood, I went to these poor countries and, like, saw what, like, life can really be like. So yeah, after 9/11 happened, I got a whole awakening on 9/11 and a whole other stuff. But back then as a kid, because I was 11 years old when it hit, it really affected me. It really bothered me. It really annoyed me because I used to get bullied all the time and everything like that. And I saw how my mom had to deal with it because she would wear the hijab out in public because, the people really didn't like Muslims after 9/11, man. So I always said, like, you know what, we're going to go after the bastards that did this. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it started.
So you went to, okay. And you end up going into school. Did you go in the... you went to, you just said...
Northeastern University. So I was at Central Connecticut State University for a year, and then I got some pretty good grades, and I transferred to Northeastern, because there was no way I would have been able to get to Northeastern out of college. Like, it's I think as of now, they got like a 7% acceptance rate. Very good school. It's right there with the Ivies. It's a private school in Boston, Massachusetts. Right next to BU, Harvard, MIT, all the preppy schools up there.
Did you take criminology or something?
I was a criminal justice major, and then I also rowed on the crew team, the rowing team, Division I.
Is there a criminology degree? That's not true, right? It's
criminal justice.
Criminal justice. What's criminology? What am I saying?
The study of criminals, basically.
Okay, what am I saying?
Yeah.
I immediately.
But there are criminology degrees. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
You're not crazy. There's absolutely criminology. Yeah. There absolutely is.
So, all right. So you got that degree because you were thinking, were you thinking Homeland? Were you thinking Homeland Security? Or you were just thinking something, or did you think about going in the military first?
So I could explain that. So Northeastern is going to sound like an ad. This is not an ad, but it's a unique school because it's a 5-year school. They have something called a co-op program where you take a semester instead of being in school, you actually go work. And what ends up happening is you get this like internship for like 6 months, and what's up happening a lot of times is like you build the connections and you're able to get a job right out of school. So I interned with the Department of Homeland Security, HSI, or Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has two components. Homeland Security Investigations, which is like the criminal investigator special agents, and then you got Enforcement Removal Operations, ERO. I interned with HSI.
Why? Do you speak like Farsi? Or?
I do speak Arabic conversationally. Yeah, I was way more fluent before, but that definitely helped me. The two things that mainly helped me was I was a Division I athlete. I spoke another language, and my GPA was pretty good. I was like a 3.3 as an athlete, so that was pretty good because they give you a little bit more leeway if you're an athlete.
At what point did you apply to go into Homeland Security? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, so my sophomore year, I applied. I went to the interview. They took me on as an intern, and the way it worked was as long as you complete and I think I did 3 rounds of 6 months. You do 6 months because I'd go 6 months back to classes, 6 months again with the government, back to classes, and then in between.
I don't understand. What do you mean?
So like the way Northeastern does it is like they literally build a curriculum where you're able to intern for 6 months without taking classes, but you're still enrolled in school.
Oh, okay.
It's like that's what makes it a 5-year school.
Okay. I thought it was like one time. I thought
no. The way they have it, it's literally built into the program. It's called the co-op program. It's really good because it's like one of the few schools that like really sets you up to like get a job outside of graduation.
Right.
But like they build it into the curriculum where you're interning 6 months, but you're still like a full-fledged student, everything else like that. You use the cafeteria, whatever, and then you go back to classes, and then they do that a couple times.
Well, then these government, institutions have to be on board with you coming. Like they have like a program connected with them, right, to allow.
Yeah. So like the some of the alumni at ICE, HSI in Boston, a lot of them were Northeastern grads, so they had this internship program built out kind of from there.
Okay.
There were alumni that were working that at the higher ups of HSI, and they had this program built.
All right, and then because we've had guys like we've had like former CIA guys and FBI agents, and a lot of them would go into the military first.
Yes, and that is the normal trajectory.
Right.
It's very difficult to get an 1811 special agent criminal investigator spot with the government fresh out of college. Very difficult to do. I was lucky where I went to a good school that had this internship program, and I successfully completed like my internship requirements and ended up working out. But yeah, normally you got to go to the military, you got to do time in another law enforcement agency, and you kind of work your way in because it's very difficult to get those jobs fresh out of college.
So what happens when you get there?
So I graduated from school. I spend 6 months waiting to go to the academy, right? So they're like, and I think we had like a government shutdown at the time. This is 2013. Oh yeah, Obama's still in. So I ended up getting an academy date in February of 2014. So I go down to Brunswick, Georgia, aka Glencoe, where the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center is, FLETC. And for the feds, there's 3 main agency academies. There's FLETC down in Georgia. FBI has theirs in Quantico. DEA has theirs in Quantico as well. Postal inspectors have theirs in Maryland. I think Secret Service has their add-on in Maryland as well. And then I think Border Patrol has theirs in Artesia. But I was down at FLETC. And that's where most of the agencies go for federal law enforcement, like ATF, Marshals, us, IRS, everyone goes there because you got to go through something called Criminal Investigator Training Program. That's about 3 to 4 months. Then you do your add-on, your agency add-on. So I did CITP. Once you get that done, that's like kind of like the general one that like you're in there with ATF guys, IRS guys, whatever. Once you're done with that, then you go to this specific add-on for your agency. So for me, it was HSI Special Agent Training Academy, SAT, HSI SAT, and then I did that for like another 3 or 4 months. And then I got out. Once I got finished, I went to my first duty station, which was Laredo, Texas.
What was happening there? Is that like if that why is Homeland Security there? Is that like drugs or?
Yeah. So for HSI, most brand new special agents with HSI get sent to the Southwest border, or they'll get sent to like a hard to fill, like a San Francisco, a New York City, and LA, like these major cities where they need a lot of agents and a lot of people don't want to go there because cost of living. But when I went, almost all of us got sent to the Southwest border or Puerto Rico. That's another big one where new agents go. And it's because these places are hard to fill. You're typically very busy. So they send new agents there. So I went to Laredo, Texas, and it was very busy, man. It was, it's the busiest office and the busiest special agent in charge area of responsibility, or AOR. Because so think of it like San Antonio is the main SAC office, right? And the FBI works like this too. ATF, all the agencies work like this. You got a SAC office, a special agent in charge office, right? That's the big one. Then there's satellite offices that fall under that office. Laredo was a office. It was a DSAC office, which is like we had like 6. It could house up to 100 agents, but it like had a deputy special agent in charge, which was a pretty big office. But it was a subsidiary of the special agent in charge office in San Antonio. So Laredo was the busiest office in the busiest SAC in the country. So we were running around doing stuff all the time. Because
what is the bulk of the cases that they're working there? Are they drug cases?
Yeah, drugs, human smuggling, firearms going southbound, money going southbound, money laundering. You think of it, it's there on the southwest border.
Same stuff that you would think of like the FBI is.
Yeah, doing. We were doing. We're actually we were way busier than FBI. Like FBI. So after 9/11, the FBI really focused on more counterterrorism, counterespionage. So what ended up happening is a lot of their crim work, or what they call crim work, went over to other agencies.
Right.
And what ended up happening after 9/11, after the Department of Homeland Security was created, HSI kind of came in and took a lot of that criminal stuff because HSI has more broad authority than the FBI. They have actually more statutes they enforce. So the FBI really focuses more on like counterterrorism and espionage. And then HSI does a lot, took up a lot of that criminal stuff that they used to do. Now, the FBI still does organized crime, of course.
Right.
But they're not, it's not their main focus like it used to be.
Right.
After 9/11.
I was going to say, whenever somebody asks me, like, how did the Secret Service get on my case? They're like, why wasn't the FBI? I'm like, because they're chasing real criminal. Like after 9/11, I knew everything got shifted.
Yep.
There was a lot of stuff that they handed over to like the Secret Service, like financial crimes and a lot.
Yeah,
of that
and I'm
stuff.
actually shocked. Like I remember when me and you had our discussion, because the thing, fun fact about Secret Service, because they're also in Homeland Security, they don't really get a lot of criminal cases prosecuted, and the reason why is because they're just so spread so thin. Because their main mission is protection. So what ends up happening a lot of the times with the United States Attorney's Office, since they're the ones taking all the cases, they hate taking Secret Service agent cases because they're never around to actually like see the case through. Right. Because they always got to, got pulled for, a detail here. Like, because they have to do all these random, like, because every president and their immediate family gets protection.
Right.
And when you add it up, like between the kids and the wives, et cetera, that's a lot of Secret Service agents they need for each detail. So they're always constantly getting pulled and they can't like really see cases all the way to fruition. Like anytime I had a Secret Service agent on one of my cases, like I'd see them like maybe once or twice a year because they were always getting pulled, and that's why they have such a high attrition rate. Like they always leave and go to other agencies or what's called a lateral. Like we have so many former Secret Service agents that are HSI guys because the quality of life sucks. They have the highest divorce rates.
Well, they saw mine through.
Yeah, they saw yours through, unfortunately.
For sure. Okay, so you got there.
It was just them, nobody else?
No, it was also, it started with the FBI, but when I was on the run and they got involved, like they were actively chasing me. The FBI basically they put the warrants out, and they're like, oh, he'll get pulled over eventually. Like they're not chasing. The Secret Service is sending out flyers. They're emailing people. They're showing up at
They were the lead
houses.
agency, right? Like when you were when you were there sitting.
Ultimately, when all the cases got condensed, they were the lead.
Okay, all right, okay.
So, but initially, initially it was FBI, but then they weren't really looking. But when I went on the run, it was definitely the Secret Service.
Gotcha, yeah. So that's why, because FBI was probably like an assisting, and they do that all the time with the bureau. Like they'll come in, they'll assist. They do the bare minimum, and then when it's time to make the arrest, they're there to take credit.
Yeah. So once you got to Laredo, I mean, how old are you at this time?
I was 24 years old.
You're 24 years old. You're working criminal cases.
It was crazy, man.
Yeah, that doesn't seem. How old are you now?
I'm 35 now.
Doesn't that seem ridiculous? A 24-year-old, like you shouldn't be in charge of anything.
Yeah, it made me grow up quick. It really did make me grow up quick. The other thing too was a culture shock. So a lot of people don't know this. When you're on the southwest border, it doesn't feel like the United States. You're basically in Mexico. No one speaks English. It's sand is everywhere. It's like literally out like the movies. It's like the Wild West, right? Everyone is Mexican. And there's like
cartel in that area. Like they're getting into shootouts with cops. Like it's not as bad as maybe being in Mexico, but it's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, from my understanding, when you talk to people that out down there, they're like, bro, it's the Wild West down there.
Yeah. So when I went there, right, there was a war going on between the Mexican Marines and the Zetas. At the time, the Los Zetas were the ones running. So Laredo, just kind of put on a map. Laredo's right here, and then the Rio Grande River, and then right underneath there is Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas, in the state of Tamaulipas in Mexico. So at the time, the cartels have so much power that the police can't do anything. They got to literally fight the Marines. So you would often hear gunfire, like machine guns going off on the Mexican side, because where I lived, it's funny enough, like my apartment complex was right next to the Rio Grande River, and you can hear the machine guns going off at night between the Mexican Marines and the Zetas fighting all the time. I think now it's Cartel del Noreste that runs it, but when I was there, it was the Zetas. By far most violent, because they're paramilitary. A lot of them were former Mexican Marines that basically turned and said, no, we're just going to sell drugs and make more money.
Yeah.
So that's what ended up happening.
Yeah, I wrote a whole true crime thing about it. How they were, it's like Zeta 1, Zeta 2, Zeta,
yes,
right?
yes,
Like
it's all by numbers. Yep.
Yeah, and they were
the Treviños. Yep.
The initial guys were actually trained. They were in the military, and they were trained by our military.
Yeah.
And then they just weren't making enough money, so then they ended up going and at first started as protection, and then they ended up becoming almost like their own cartel, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, So what happened? So what are some of the cases? I mean, what's
So I was in a so we had like 10 groups, right? Because this was a deputy special agent in charge office, right? A DSAC office, which I don't think FBI has DSACs, but HSI does. So it was like, I think we're going to house something like 100 agents, but we were down to like 60, right? It was very hard because HSI had a hiring freeze for many years. So like by the time I got to Laredo, that was the first time they had new agents in years. It was like me and like 5 of my classmates went to Laredo. So we get there. There were 10 groups. We had 3 human smuggling groups, like 3 drug trafficking groups. We had a border enforcement security task force group, which was like border violence, kidnapping, etc. We had a commercial fraud group, which was counterfeit merchandise, people smuggling and commercial fraud. Like basically like when people do like IPR or they're trying to smuggle in things that they're not supposed to be smuggling in, but it might not necessarily be drugs, it's other contraband.
Like what? Nikes, fake Nike,
like that type of stuff.
Product,
commercial
whatever.
fraud, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. But we were so busy, like every group was like doing everything. Like the only reason you were like in a group is because you'd often get calls. So for me, right, I was in a human smuggling group. So Border Patrol is out doing patrols or whatever. And if they catch a smuggler trying to bring in illegal aliens, whether it's on the border, smuggling through the river, or driving them around, because there's many different legs of a trip when you're going through human smuggling, Border Patrol catches them, they bring them back to the station, they contact us. We go, we follow up and do the investigation. We interview all the migrants that were caught. We interview the suspect smuggler. And then we go ahead and figure out where the aliens were supposed to go, who else was involved in the organization, et cetera, and then kind of work our way backwards there. Sometimes we'll do controlled deliveries. And it's very similar like in the drug game. So someone gets caught at the bridge trying to bring in drugs. They call us. We show up. Hey, where was this dope supposed to go? Oh, I was going to take it to San Antonio. Okay, let's go ahead and do a controlled delivery. And we take it up there or whatever it may be. So this was happening all the time.
Do you let them take it up there and you just kind of follow them? Or do you guys?
Yeah. So if we're going to do a controlled delivery, right, I can explain how it works. So the thing with controlled deliveries, you got to be quick, right? So when customs calls you, let's say they catch 10 kilos at the bridge, right? Guy comes in, supposed to bring it in, gets caught. Hey, we got a guy here at the bridge, 10 keys. What do you want us to do? Don't move. We're going to be over there. Get over there quick. Get him on the phone with the next guy that he was supposed to speak to.
That's assuming he's cooperating.
Assuming he's cooperating. Of course, you get there, you read him his rights. Hey, look, we got you with 10 keys. You can go right now, or you work with us. And we'll talk to the AUSA, Assistant United States Attorney's Office, the Assistant United States Attorney, the prosecutor, and we can, work something out. Yeah, cool. I'll cooperate. All right. Call the guy that you're supposed to call. Do a contextually monitored phone call. Obviously, record it. He says, hey, I just got a flat tire, but I'm on my way, etc. Make up some kind of ruse as to why he's, because they're very methodical.
They know how long it takes.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, did you get stopped? Whatever. So if things are off, like the timing is off, they get suspicious. So he's like, yeah, no, I'm on my way, etc. So at that point, if it looks like it's gonna go, I'm telling the CBP officers, okay, let them go. We do a pass-through memo, and we start taking them up north. And what ended up happening is, obviously he won't have drugs in the car. We'll take the drugs. But then we'll let him drive and we follow him and we'll just monitor the whole thing.
So what happens? He brings it up there? I mean,
so
you wire the guy up?
Yeah. He's wired up. sometimes we'll have an agent in the car with them or not, depending on the situation. They get to let's say we're going from Laredo to San Antonio. San Antonio is almost always the next transit point, right? 2 hours up north, Interstate Highway 35, take them up there, right? And you're notifying all the local law enforcement, DPS, Border Patrol, etc. Hey, we're doing this operation, etc., so they don't interfere. He gets there. Once he gets there, 9 out of 10 times they're going to tell him, put it in a parking lot, leave it. Leave the keys in the gas tank, whatever. The guys that show up that are supposed to come pick it up, we arrest them. Where are we supposed to go with these, blah, blah, blah. And then just kind of leapfrogging it. See, you take it as far as you can go. And then very similar to human smuggling too. Human smuggling, it's a bit different. Because with human smuggling, it's a lot harder, right? Because you're dealing with human beings. So what ends up happening is when the aliens, okay, so I'll go right from the beginning here. So the way human smuggling works, because a lot of people confuse human smuggling with human trafficking, 2 completely distinct crimes. With human smuggling, that's coming into the country illegally. Every illegal,
these people want to come. They want to be a part of this whole thing. They're paying to be.
Yes. So when people want to come here, 9 out of 10 times they have to go through a human smuggler to do it, because you can't just like traverse, into the United States without some type of assistance, right? You're going to need smugglers. You're going to need an organization. You're going to need people that can, facilitate smuggling you, bringing you in, then getting you housing as you're waiting, and then getting you another transport driver to bring you up north. So what ends up happening is with the aliens, right? Typically, they got to get to a transit location, whether it's Mexico, the Bahamas, etc. If we're going to do maritime versus doing land border, but we'll just focus on land border now. So they get to Mexico. Let's say they get to Mexico City. They stage from there. They pay their smuggler. Then that smuggler is responsible for getting them to a border town. Let's say a Nuevo Laredo or a Reynosa or whatever it may be, across from McAllen, whatever it is, right? So you get to Nuevo Laredo, right? They have you at a stage at a stash house there. While you're there, obviously you pay that stash house operator. They house you, they feed you, etc. And then when it's safe, with the cover of night or whatever, what's called the lanchero will get you across the border, right? Or will get you across the river into the United States. Once he gets them into the United States, now he's got to get them to a highway, right? Because someone else is going to come and pick them up in a car, right? So the foot guide or the coyote, he knows the area, etc. So he's walking them through the brush, etc. He knows where the sensors are. He knows where Border Patrol patrols, so that they don't get caught. He gets them to the road, one of these rural highways. A smuggler comes, picks them up from there, takes them to a stash house. Now they're dealing with the U.S.-based version of the organization. They get to a stash house somewhere in Laredo or Rio Bravo, one of these little rinky-dink towns in South Texas. They wait there until their family pays the next portion to move them up north. From there, they got to get off the southwest border. They got to get out of what's called the functional equivalent of the border. And this is why there's Border Patrol checkpoints all across the southwest border, about 30 miles out, because that all counts as the functional equivalent to the border. And that's where Border Patrol's authority kind of ends. So, you look at like on Interstate Highway 35, there's a checkpoint 29, right? 29 miles into the United States on Interstate Highway 35, there's a Border Patrol checkpoint where they're running dogs and everything else like that. And that's the last line of defense, because once you make it past that Border Patrol checkpoint, you're pretty much good to go.
Yeah.
Because
they can't ask for papers. They can't really.
Exactly. Because no other agency, once you get past the southwest border, has immigration authority except for ICE. But is Immigration Customs Enforcement, ICE ERO, going to run around and pick everybody up? No. A lot of these aliens, they don't even know they made it in. So the stash house operator's job, once they get into the United States, is to get them out of the house and past one of these checkpoints immediately. Because if they can get them to San Antonio or Houston or one of these like transit locations, they're pretty much scot-free. So once they get them there, they get to San Antonio. From there, typically the family members come and pick them up. And then prices vary for the legal aliens, how much they pay to get smuggled, depending on where they're from. Like Chinese pay a lot of money, Arabs pay a lot of money, Russians pay a lot of money. These are considered
a lot of money.
So a Chinese national is going to pay somewhere between $30,000 to $60,000 to come to the United States.
So if you're in Mexico, just to get across the border, what does that cost? Like $5,000 or $10,000?
So when they just across the river, it's $2,000, and that's because they got to pay that. That's called a quota. They got to pay that to the cartels, because the human smuggling organizations typically aren't cartel members, if that makes sense. They operate on cartel territory, and the cartels don't like to deal with human smuggling as much because it's a very dirty business and it's very labor intensive.
Right.
So what they do is they just tax the hell out of the human smugglers. Now, some of them absolutely do deal with human smuggling, but when I was there on the southwest border, the human smugglers kind of like were their own contractors. They operated in the Zetas territory, so they just paid them an amount for every illegal alien that crossed the river, and they can make more money doing that, because they don't got to deal with the bodies, paying for smugglers, housing them, feeding them, all this other stuff, all the humanitarian crap. So they would just sell the drugs. They would deal with the drugs more and then tax the human smugglers. Chinese are paying easily like 60K. Arabs are paying like 60 to 100,000. Russians, those are considered exotics. Basically, if you're an illegal alien from a country that's like on a watch list or anything like that, they're gonna charge you more.
So these are guys that they're still coming into Mexico, coming across the border, right?
Yeah.
I can't imagine where else they're going to come across.
Caribbean too. So when I was in Miami, a lot of maritime smuggling. They'd go to the Bahamas, they'd stage in Bimini, and then they'd take, a boat captain will come from Miami to come pick them up from there, and then bring them in.
How long were you down there?
In Laredo, Texas. I was there from 2014 to 2018, and then I switched over. I changed field offices from Laredo, Texas to Miami.
Why?
Dude, being on the southern border sucks. You want to get off as soon as you can. Like after you do like 3 to 5 years, they let you transfer out because it's very. I remember there were days where I'd go to work on like a Monday. I wouldn't get home till like Thursday. Like you're working a lot, right? They're overworking you. So because you're doing duty calls, you're on call all the time. Because these calls happen all the time where the border patrols catching people smuggling aliens. They're catching people at the bridge with drugs. So you're constantly reacting to the ports. Okay. And, getting these calls and stuff like that. So it's good though, because I learned a lot in only 4 years. Like I did more cases, arrested like literally hundreds of thousands of people. Like that's not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds to 1,000 easily. Because you're encountering illegal aliens, you're encountering smugglers, you're encountering drug traffickers, you're encountering all kinds of different types of people. So, yeah, I learned a lot. So when I went to Miami, I was able to hit the ground running when I got to Miami.
Okay. So do you think, real quick, then we move to Miami, but
sure.
Do you think that do you think it's possible for them to actually like close the border to where almost nobody, I mean, somebody's always going to get across. You got to figure it out.
Of course. It's going to be very difficult to do without like military assistance, which, they can't, I think it's called posse comitatus or whatever. Like the military can't come in and be involved with law enforcement operations. This is why we would have National Guard guys helping us out in the counter drug and also with exploitation through the HERO program. But they don't carry guns. Like they just kind of assist from an analytical perspective. They're like intel analysts, but they can't really do much else from the law enforcement perspective. So yeah, I mean, without military intervention, it would be very difficult because Border Patrol is almost always understaffed. It's hard to keep guys on the border for HSI. So, they're the criminal investigators. So you would need more Border Patrol agents and you'd have to involve the military to a degree too, because it's tough, man. And you're talking about just so much open land space where they're able to kind of come in all these rural areas. Massive. It's huge, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's
it's so huge. People don't know this too. Illegal aliens that try to come in, a lot of times they end up getting if they don't have a good foot guide or the foot guide leaves them, they die out there all the time.
They'll get lost, all
the time.
Well, I was gonna say, plus it's a desert. If you got it, that's why when we were talking about they have to get you to this point, I'm thinking, those are base camps where they have water and food because you couldn't carry enough water to sustain you trying to walk your own way all the way through, and that's if you knew.
Yep.
And it's easy to get lost out there, because it's hilly.
So easy. And then you got it's super hot. The sun's beating down on you. You got wild animals, etc. Dude, we would run into situations all the time where there'd be dead aliens out there in the brush. And we would give the person that smuggled them a sentencing enhancement for that.
Right.
Because a lot of times they would just leave them there to die. The foot guides.
All right.
So
the first opportunity you had to leave, you took off. You said, "I'm done. I can't do this anymore."
Yeah. Though I did enjoy it and I liked it. I was like, you know what? If I don't leave now, because it was a rare announcement where they're like, "Hey, we're taking guys that have 3 years or more, they can get off the border." And I was like, if I don't take this opportunity now, who knows? Because I knew guys that were stuck on the border for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Right. So I was like, oh shit. So I got to get off while I can. So I applied to a couple different offices, Dallas, Houston, Tampa, funny enough, Tampa, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Miami was my 5th pick, but they took me. So I accepted Miami. And then it's funny because Dallas was my 2nd pick and they called me, but I had already accepted Miami. Life would have been so much different if I went to the Dallas office. I'd probably still be working for the government if I went to the Dallas field office.
So in Miami, what was Miami like? Did you show up there?
Yeah, so I get to Miami in 2018.
You're not a rookie anymore either.
Yeah. I got some gray hairs. I get there in 2018. I hit the ground running. Right. I remember my first day on we had a call, like this Cuban guy had smuggled like 10 or 13 aliens or whatever. So, I volunteered to take the case. I'm like, because I'm the new guy, because they got like a duty call, right? Coast Guard calls, hey, because now you're not dealing with Border Patrol anymore. You're dealing with Coast Guard, right? So Coast Guard calls, we show up, this Cuban guy, I take the case, and it was easy because I had done like, I remember when I was on the border in Laredo, like I'd be on duty, right? I'd get like 3 or 4 calls. I'd have to take all those cases. And then I'm like writing up criminal complaints, 2:00 in the morning, about to go to sleep, half asleep. And then I got to show up to court at 9:00 with all the prisoners. So, going to Miami was like a refreshing change because it was way easier. So like I would always volunteer and take cases. And then I also was able to run more proactive cases too, which I had done like big organized crime proactive cases in Laredo. But in Miami, I had more ability to do so because we didn't get bogged down as badly with response calls.
Okay. So how long did you work in Miami? It's more that it's
yeah, from 2018 to 2020. So from 2018 to 2020, and what ended up happening is like that's where the Fresh and Fit chapter begins, because I had started the Fresh Fit podcast while I was working for the government, right? So people always say, right? So
how does that? Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you even come about thinking like that? Like that is such a, well, I don't know. It's kind of it's still kind of the macho thing, but it still doesn't. To me, I don't see agents thinking, "Hey, this is something I like." How does that even come about?
Sure.
There's just no way.
So 2019. So I get there 2018, having a great time, whatever. I end up getting into like some BS, right? Some like this club made this allegation against me that I got into like a fight inside of their nightclub, right? And Internal Affairs opens an investigation. Mind you, I had never went inside the club ever. Like I didn't do anything. But the bouncers, I don't know what it was. I had been there before. They didn't like me. I'm walking outside. They fucking tackle me, say all this stuff. And basically, long story short, it gets to my superiors and they say that I was at this club and I started trouble with a dancer. Like it was a strip club. And I was like, what the hell? Like, that's not me at all. Like, I don't even pay. Like, number one, when I do go to strip clubs, I'll never spend $1. I talk to the regular girls because, we're anti-simp over here. So I was like, this is bullshit. But of course, with everything, they have to investigate it, right? So Internal Affairs opens an internal investigation on me and one of my buddies. So I'm like, damn, this is like very scary because you're like, what the hell? Like, these dudes lied on my name. I never did this. Like, now I'm the subject of an internal affairs investigation. I have an impeccable record. I've never done anything bad. I've always had the most reports written, most arrests. I'm like one of the rock star agents, right? And at the time, I had a big case. So I'm like, you know what, dude? I'm never going to have someone be able to control, like, my livelihood. So I say, you know what? I'm going to, because I was really into fitness. So I was like, I'm going to start a fitness business. So I go ahead and I get outside employment paperwork, outside employment authorization. I get it signed off to be a fitness and life coach. So I start, coaching people online, start my fitness business, is doing really well. I start making as much, if not more money than I did when I was working for the government. With the government, I was making I was like a GS-13 1 or 2 at this point. I was making like $120K per year. I was gonna say cash, no. Like more, they destroyed me with taxes. But yeah, I was making like $120K or so per year, which is good money for me because I'm like a minimalist. I don't buy nothing expensive. Even though I'm in Miami, I don't wear jewelry and none of that stupid shit. So it was great for me. I was paying low rent. Back then in 2018, I was paying like $1,700 to live in Brickell, which now if you try to get that same apartment, it's like $3K because like COVID like changed everything. But that's a whole other conversation. But anyway, Miami was very cheap back then. So I get this fitness business and I'm making as much, if not more, making like 150, 160K per year with just my other side business. So the internal investigation, 6 months later, I get cleared. They find out that the fucking bouncers and shit were lying on me, whatever. So I get cleared. But it was really annoying because like you go through that uncertainty, like what the fuck? I never did anything. But I realized like, okay, if I want to grow my fitness business, I need to get on social media, and namely YouTube, right? Instagram isn't enough because I was doing everything through Instagram. But YouTube is a search engine as well as a video sharing engine. So I was like, let me get on YouTube. So I started a YouTube channel where I started giving like fitness tips. Now I started getting consultations.
And this is what year? This
is now 2020.
Okay.
This is 2020. And the pandemic is in now. This is like literally, this is like spring of 2020. Pandemic is like full on, government shutdown, etc. Now I was still working because I had a really big national security case at the time. So I was doing both. Right, so I'd literally be like, because you couldn't go to the office, so I'd be like,
what was the big case? I'm sorry.
It was it was a human smuggling case, basically with Sri Lankans in Canada. They were basically, the scheme was they were smuggling Sri Lankans into United States using fraud, our immigration system for fraud, claiming asylum, all this other crap. Then they were all going to Toronto. So I was working it with the Turks and Caicos Police Department, National Police, Royal Police, as well as the RCMP and the CBSA. So it was a very big case because Sri Lankans are, well, that's a whole other conversation. But I was doing that.
Sneaky?
No, like
sophisticated.
There was
Vicious.
links. There was links to a certain organization, which I can't say right now. I'll tell you off camera, but yeah, that's made it more
higher profile.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Which I think I don't know if the case is still active. Some of my criminal complaints are still out there. I think because I remember when I was there, we arrested the main guys. But I don't know if they expanded and continued on because it was like a big deal. It was like a whole big fucking conspiracy with this stuff. But so I was doing this case, right? And I'd like be home. I'd be working on my government laptop, writing reports and stuff. Then I'd like go do some of my fitness stuff. Then I go back and do that. So like I was just like working all the time, right? Like
no girlfriend.
I had some chicks I was dealing with, but like nothing serious, man. Nothing serious because I was just so focused. So
when you're working 80, 90 hours a week, it kind of excludes,
Yeah.
Unless they're just swinging by, for a couple hours and leaving.
Exactly. So, so I'm doing this case, running my business as well. A lot of it was remote because obviously everything is locked down. We're talking, this is what, May, April or so of 2020. We're pretty much in full lockdown mode at that point. In Miami, I know we shut down right around March. I make my YouTube videos, fitness stuff or whatever. And then I noticed like I also started taking on consults and a lot of guys would ask me questions about girls. And, I was doing pretty well with the ladies in Miami because, if you can get girls in Miami, you can get them anywhere because some of the, it's like hard mode, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In Miami, like unless you're paying for it. But I wasn't paying for it, right? I don't believe in tricking. So, a lot of guys would ask me for like dating tips or whatever. And I was like, damn, okay. I should probably help guys with this as well because I noticed that guys want to get in shape to get girls, but like guys were doing dumb shit with the girls and like simping and, getting taken to the cleaners. So I was like, man, we need to not just teach these guys how to get in shape, but we also need to teach these guys how to like understand how to deal with women. Then I figured out that a lot of guys would be struggling with the girls because they're also broke. So I'm like, man, we need to start a podcast where we just like help guys out with their dating and self-improvement. So then bam, Fresh Fit Podcast, we launch October of 2020. And a month later,
That's when I started filming my videos. I did that for like 6 months. I did the same thing. Was it?
Probably.
No. It definitely was because it was
It had to be probably because I know I started learning about YouTube during the pandemic, during the lockdown. So, and I know you did it and I met you probably 8 months to a year into it.
Yeah. I think 6 or 8 months. Yeah, you're right. It was about the same time. That's funny.
That makes sense.
I just feel like you guys have obviously had a lot more success. But anyway, yeah. So because when you said 2020, I was thinking like, I don't know why. I just felt like because as soon as I started paying attention to YouTube, I had already was coming across your videos like very quickly.
Yeah, no, we started our first podcast was October 26th. 2020, cameras were all blurry and shit, and we didn't know what we were doing. But me and my buddy Fresh, Walter. So we started the podcast. That was the first episode. And then I get this new apartment. I buy all this equipment, spent like $40K on all the equipment and getting the studio set up, etc. I had this other apartment down the street. I wasn't even living there yet. Like I had just like got everything set up. And then a month later, I get an email, Internal Affairs again. Hey, you got to come in for an interview. I'm like, what the fuck? Like I didn't do shit. So I go there, right? Because at this point, I'm like a pro with this stuff, right? I'm like, I already know what's going to happen. Like, they're going to bring me in. They're going to read me my, they give you like these like amended rights. Because like as a government employee, like you can't like take the fifth. It's administrative. It's not criminal. So you can't like be like, I take the Fifth Amendment. Like, no, bro, like you got to go in there and answer the questions. So I'm like, whatever. So I go and they take my phone. And I'm like, what the fuck? So in my head, I'm like, why'd they take my phone? Then I was like, oh my God, they probably think I'm like filming content on my phone, which I was insulted because the government, they're always like 3 or 4 generations behind. So they take my like iPhone 6. And I'm like, you fucking assholes, if you guys see my YouTube videos there, I'm using 4K and shit because I had a videographer I was hiring. Right. To like do my stuff because I did the podcast and I also did pre-recorded videos. And like the guy I would bring in was really expensive because he'd come in with like this 6K camera. So I was like really insulted. I was like, do these guys really think I'm over here recording content on this fucking shitty ass phone?
Did you know it was about the podcast? When you got there?
No, I didn't know what it was for.
Okay.
Like I assumed, like I was like, okay, it's got to be because of what I'm saying on the podcast or whatever. Because I was, me, I'm very honest. I'm like, bro, you guys can't simp. You got to like be the leader. You got to be dominant. Obviously, we live in this pussified world where being politically correct is everything. So they didn't even interview me. They just took the phone. I was like, what the fuck? So at that point, I'm like, okay, they got to be thinking I'm like recording shit or whatever on my thing. But like, I was actually really, and I've never said this before, like I was so ready, like if they did the interview, to go in there with like all my fucking reports and like all my, like, cause I had made that case like an OCDF case, that national security case. For those that aren't aware, there's a program called Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, OCDF. And if you get your case designated as OCDF case, it's a big fucking deal.
All right.
Right? You get you get a case number from the Department of Justice. It's a priority for the United States Attorney's Office. You're getting all kinds of resources, etc. Not only was it an OCDF case, but it also was like something called like I won't say exactly what it is, but like I'll just say a very special case under HSI.
Okay.
Right? They have like these case designations that you can get special funding for your case because it was a national security case and it was an OCDF case. So if they had brought me in to like say, yeah, we have information that you're like doing this podcast and like potentially on government time, I'd literally say, fuck you guys. These are 70 reports of investigations that I've written on this case. Here's my OCDF case number. Like I'm fucking working and I'm outpacing every single agent in this office. Cause at the time I had the number 1 or number 2 case in the fucking office. So if they had like brought me in to say that shit, I would have like totally shit on them. Like you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Go look at my ROIs, go look at my reports, because that's the real way to know if an agent's working. Like the go-getter guys, they're writing a lot of reports. They have confidential informants signed up. They got sources of information. So I was literally ready to go in there and just tear them a new one. If they even dared say, oh, are you using government time to like to do your business? I'm like, fuck you. Like because the other thing too with these internal affairs agents, 9 out of 10 times, because what ends up happening is they rotate in, right? So they're HSI agents, but then they get rotated into something called the Office of Professional Responsibility. They do it for like 5 years, then they rotate back into HSI. FBI the same way. FBI has something called the Inspection Division. They're FBI agents. They investigate their own. They're obviously in another office. They don't like, they, have their whole other chain of command, etc. But yeah, like, because a lot of these OPR guys didn't do shit when they were agents. Like they just like want a cush gig. They want to work at 8 to 5, 8 to 4. Chill, because internal investigations are always administrative. They're never criminal. Is bullshit. So I was gonna get in there and just shit on them if they even dared to fucking say, "Are you using government time to fucking run your business?" Like fuck you guys. But anyway, yeah, like,
no,
like
don't hold back.
Yeah,
I mean, like not that it upsets you.
Yeah, because it would piss me off. Because like, and anyone that's like an 1811 knows exactly what I'm talking about. Anyone that's FBI or DEA, whatever, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about when I say OCDF case. Like that's a big fucking deal. So anyway.
You're ready to do battle.
Yeah, I'm ready to do battle,
take
right?
Your phone
because I'm like, because they've already brought me in before on some bullshit, and I got cleared. So I was like, bro, like whatever. You guys want to bring me in on this other shit? Because I was convinced that someone like snitched and said, look, this guy's making YouTube videos on government time or some bullshit like that.
But you've already been given permission to basically have us.
And I had authorized employment paperwork in the thing, so I was good. Like I was ready to go to war with these idiots if they even brought me in on that, right? Because I knew I was in the right. And I had my work to show for it. So no one could tell me anything about like, what are you doing with your time? Like, fuck you guys. But the other thing too, where was I going with this? Oh, so they bring me in for that, right? I give them my phone. Then I found out. So the next day I have a meeting with my special agent in charge. All the brass is there. They bring me in. Hey, what are you doing on your YouTube? Right? That's how when I found out it was my YouTube.
Can you imagine?
Like, yeah.
Like, YouTube?
Yeah.
Are we having a conversation here about YouTube?
Yeah, that's what it was, dude. Like, and it's funny because so the special agent in charge, the assistant special agent in charge, the deputy special agent in charge, like 4 ranks above me. They're all in this room, right? Like, they're like, what are you doing, man? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on here? And, I explained to him like, yeah, I got this podcast that I'm doing. I got people that rely on me, etc. And he's like, okay, look, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to rescind your authorization paperwork. And I'm like, what? Because now I can't run my business anymore. Because that's what like I used, because I did everything above board.
Well, what are they saying the issue is?
They're saying it's your YouTube. They didn't know exactly what, because obviously OPR didn't tell them, but they knew it had something to do with my YouTube, right?
I would think that that's important. Like you can't just say, oh, you're not saying you can't have a YouTube, or you're saying there's got to be something specific that I'm doing. Like, what is it I'm
This
done?
is what they said. They said, look, you got a clearance, you got to testify, you got a big case. You can't be on internet saying certain things. I'm thinking it's probably because I'm like saying shit like don't be a simp, don't be a sucker, like stuff like that. Which, even though like for us, right, as creators, we might be like, that's not that serious. But for them, right, as a government employee, they're like, oh, bro, you can't do that. So whatever. And this is 2020. This is like before, we got the craziness right now, like with Kash Patel coming in and everything else.
Yeah.
Right?
No, this is at almost the height of kind of the woke fucking like there were a couple years there. Keep in mind, I got out of prison.
Yep.
And woke was just coming up. So over the next few years, I'm sitting back going, this is a different fucking world. Not just technologically, but the mindset of these fucking guys and women and just everybody's in fucking insane.
Yeah. And this is November. So Biden won. Like Biden's in. Right. So like so this is like this is November when I got this email. And then I got this email. I go to the OPR office, they take my phone. Next day they call me in for a meeting. Hey, what's going on with this YouTube, etc. It's your YouTube, blah, blah, blah. And they're telling me like, dude, just because these are government employees, career-long government employees, they don't know anything about making money on the internet. They don't know anything about marketing, whatever. So they're like, dude, just let this shit go. Because they're thinking it's like a hobby, right? They don't know how much money I'm making, right? Doing it. So they're like, dude, just like let it go, man. You got a big case, like whatever. Because they didn't want me to leave. Like they were like, yo, we're going to take this paperwork away because obviously we got to see what the hell happens with this OPR investigation. But just leave it, bro. It's not that serious. Or, and he said, I'll revisit this after the OPR investigation is done. But here's the problem. That could take up to 6 months. Right. So I got to be off YouTube for 6 months. And at this point, I got employees. A guy had just went from Chicago, came to Miami to work with us. And then my partner, Fresh, he had quit his job. He had a job that he hated and he quit it. And he was the most happy I'd ever seen him. Right. Meanwhile, I'm like, man, I don't want to leave my job because I loved it. So I had a real tough decision to make. So I go back and forth with them. Like, we work something out, blah, blah. They're like, no, we're rescinding your paperwork. So they basically put me in a position where I was like, I either have to resign, right? And, pick my business, or I work for the government and I can't do anything.
Were they, when you made that decision, or the fact that you were even contemplating it, were they in shock that was it? Because they must have been like, oh, we'll rescind it. He'll do what he's supposed to do. Obviously he's got 10 years in. He's not going to fucking walk away from 10 years of. They were banking on me leaving my business. Yeah, right.
They were.
Like at what, 20 years you can retire?
Yeah.
So at 20 years,
25 for me because I came in early. But at 55 I'm done. Basically.
But I mean, it's like,
or 45 I'm done.
Who's gonna walk? He's not gonna walk away from that because they have no idea that, hey, there's behind all of this, behind the content, the attention, and the exposure is no. There's actually, I'm making money, and I'm making money doing something I love. Yeah. And nobody's ever gonna shoot at me.
Yeah. Yeah, they had no idea, right? Government employees like have no idea how to make money on the internet. So like to them, they couldn't even fathom it. So like I'm pretty sure like when they said that, they're like, yeah, he's got a big case. He's one of the best agents in this office. He's not gonna fucking do no bullshit. He's gonna leave. But no, I ended up, I'll never forget, man. I made the decision. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna resign. And they were told me like, are you sure? Blah, blah. A bunch of people called me. People back from Texas were calling me. What the fuck are you doing? Don't leave. This is a great job. Are you sure like you're gonna do this? Because like to them, like government employees can't fathom like leaving a steady paycheck. You get a take-home car, making 6 figures a year, benefits. It was a great job, dude. Like I even now, I think about it every day. Like I never wanted to leave. Wanted to leave. But they kind of put me in that spot. And the reason why I left really was because I had people depending on me. And I'm not afraid to admit this. If I didn't have people depending on me, I probably wouldn't have left the government. Right. I probably wouldn't have left. I probably would have said, fuck it. It is what it is. Yeah, I made some money in my business. I'll get it started back up after this investigation's done and I get cleared. But I had people depending on me at that point, so I was like, I can't just take 6 months off the internet because they left their jobs. Right. So I ended up betting on myself. December 5th, I'll never forget. I walked into the office. I turned in all my gear. I turned in my vest, badge, credentials. It was literally one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, man. When I had to go and turn in all my stuff and turn in my government car, and then I went home, and then we just went full in with the podcast. So at that point, it was sink or swim with the podcast. Right. At that point.
I'll bet. Yeah. Well, it's not like, so if you left it's not like you left in bad standing, right? You could apply. You could apply to get a position again.
Yeah, no, I left on good standing. I didn't I didn't like, berate them and say screw you guys or any of that other stuff. I left obviously, amicably. Some people try to say I got fired on. I'm like, dude, no, you're an idiot. Like I literally
always gonna say that.
Yeah, people are stupid. But no, I ended up leaving very amicably. And that's the other thing too, because people say all the time, you don't use your real name. The reason why I don't use my real name, I want to make sure I get the whole story out there, is because I have a very unique name. It's Amron Fuddle. If you Google me, like my real name, you'll see criminal complaints come back of cases that I've done. So I was like, okay, if I'm going to go ahead and do this fitness business and I'm going to go ahead and be like on the internet, probably not smart for me to use my real name, which is like very unique and no one has it, that where someone can Google it and find all my criminal case stuff. So, because I didn't want people to know what I did like for my real job. So that's why I used that name for so long. Then obviously it stuck after the fact.
Okay.
But yeah, people try to say, you changed your government name. No, I didn't. People are stupid. Because I had to clear it and stuff. So yeah, that's why I used that the stage name Myron Gaines while I was working.
How'd you come up with Myron Gaines?
Oh, it's a play on words. Myron Gaines, like from the bodybuilding.com forums.
From what?
Trolling, like the misc on the bodybuilding.com forums. Like I was
no idea what that
you
means.
Myron my Gaines. It's a play on words. Yeah, it's a play on words.
Okay.
Like from a decade ago, it was funny shit, but back then, like the Z's era, for those that are familiar, we're probably watching this. So yeah.
You were friends with Fresh beforehand. Yeah. How'd you guys? Did you meet him in Miami?
So he was in Miami. I was in Miami. I met him through another YouTuber, a guy named Solo TV84, because I was making like dating / fitness / red pill content, and Solo was in that community, and he had known Fresh because he had done a collab with him before. At the time, Fresh was doing pranks, like gold digger pranks. So we ended up coming together and like talking about dating in Miami, and people really liked it because at the time there were dating channels, but there weren't really dating channels like focused on like Miami or like dating in the United States. Like some of the biggest YouTube channels that like focus on dating, it's all passport bro stuff, right?
Okay,
so there weren't many channels that were like devoted to like dealing with like American westernized women. Because like most of the most prominent dating coaches like already left, which I don't blame them. Like, the West kind of sucks. But I think that's another reason why people really liked it, is because like we had good production starting out and we covered dealing with women in America. And then in one of the toughest cities, Miami.
Okay. So.
And we also brought social media in as well. Like how much social media impacts dating in 2020. Well, now 2025, but back then.
From the
in 2020,
from the get go, was it the round table with all the girls, or was
How did
what's the
Sure, no, great question.
Yeah.
So it started with us just like doing like episodes where we're just talking about like dating, like getting your credit on point, getting money, getting in shape, right? Just improving as a man. And then one day, me and Fresh had done like a double date with these girls. Right. And we don't really drink. I mean, now we pretty much quit drinking all the way. But I remember like we had a couple of drinks this night and we had the girls in the studio and Fresh is like, bro, he looks at me and he's like, you can see that he's like leaning at me. He's like, we should turn the cameras on and go live now. I'm like, what? Bro, it's like 11 o'clock at night. What are you talking about? It's like, let's just do it. So I was like, all right. So we just like went fucking live.
What were you having such was it just a good conversation or were these two girls just like
Yeah, we were like chatting it up with the girls talking about some shit.
Okay.
Because they were like, it was like girls that we knew. So it was like whatever. And we just like turned the show on and we just like turned the camera on and just started talking with the chicks and people enjoyed it. And then like we just started bringing girls on the show and expanded from there. But that's how it started. How
many views were initially your videos getting?
So we were getting, so 2020, I remember we had like Rolo Tomasi come on in like February of 2021-ish. We had like 20,000 subscribers back then. And then we were getting a couple of thousand. And then, we really started to grow. Kevin Samuels had come on. He was blowing up at the same time. Rest in peace to him.
Yeah, I can't believe he seemed like that's like when I heard he died, I was like, bro, he's not like he's old. And he looked like he was in good shape. Like
Yeah, crazy, man.
Shocking.
Yeah. Without that hit us all crazy. Like we just collabed with like all the big names in the red pill, man. And like we just grew because I think the thing with us was like we were young and we were in the game and we were in a major city in the United States talking about this stuff. And we really like, we were talking about social media as well and how that impacts women. So I think that alongside like collabing with these guys and then also kind of having like a more talk show atmosphere and bringing girls in, like that just helped us really like grow and propel. Cause like we brought a lot of these guys on. And then also it's like a very serious problem for a lot of guys. Like a lot of guys like really struggle with women and like getting out there and dating. So like we were kind of just out there calling it like it is and telling guys what it is when it comes to the dating marketplace and then also TikTok blew us up. That's another thing that blew us up. I forgot to mention.
Is there a vetting process for the girls? You know how we're talking off camera, like, you know,
I don't handle it at all.
Yeah.
I have a buddy that does that. Like I don't deal with the girls whatsoever. So like a lot of times, like I'll just walk into the studio and they'll be there and I'll just like sit down and we film.
Yeah.
I don't even know who they are. Nothing. Like I don't,
How do you guys do that?
We bring girls on 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We film Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We do our like Money Mondays, then we do Womanizer Wednesdays, then we do like Call and Show Friday or special guest. And then the girls are after hours. So we do 6 shows a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the daytime show, then the nighttime show. And then I do my
hours are you videoing a week?
Oh man. Well, now that I do my talk show as well, I'm easily filming like 5-6 hours of content a day.
Jeez, I thought we were smashing them out.
Yeah.
And you have to think we schedule like 7 or 8 a week. 4 people show up, maybe 4 or 5. Because I'm dealing with, these guys are
people are idiots. Yeah.
Yeah, you know they.
We were supposed to have a podcast this morning before you came.
Yeah, he didn't show.
Yeah.
We have somebody on the schedule tomorrow, and he
just hasn't responded at all. I've already taken him off the schedule. I already canceled it. It's like I sent you 4 emails, like or 4 text messages. You're not responding.
Crazy, yeah. That's absolutely crazy. That's why, like for me, I was like when I locked in, I was like, yeah, I'm coming up. You know, I was just pissed off at the airline, but that has nothing to do with you guys.
How was Ian's?
What was it?
Ian Bick? You want an
Ian
Bick?
Yeah. Ian's great. I was in Connecticut. I was there because that's where my folks are at. And I hit him up. I was like, hey, man, I'm in town. We could do something. And yeah, it was great talking with him. I brought him on my show. Very, very cool story that he has. But no, he's cool, man. One of the nicest guys.
What?
No,
Bick is great.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say because you had agreed to come on here, and then we couldn't, for whatever reason, we couldn't, get you here. And then one day I turn it on, and boom, you're on Ian's, and I went,
oh, that was because I was home. My folks live.
Like, did this guy fly up to Connecticut?
No.
And do Ian Bick?
Yeah.
No, I can see why you'd be mad. Yeah, no, because where he films is literally right next door to where my parents live. So
Okay.
I had went home. Why did I go back up there? To see my mom. Like I hadn't seen her in a bit. So, and he films right there. So I was like, oh, okay. So I like went 2 towns over and he was right there.
Do you vacation? Do you like take a break? Like, hey, bro, I'm not filming this week.
Nah, man, no, never. Oh, very rare. No, I can't. I can't think of the last time I went like a week without filming. No.
Yeah, because you're posting so much.
Yeah, no.
It's insane. Like we thought, like everybody I know. Okay, so I've got a buddy of mine, Julian Dory, and Danny Jones, and they do like one show a week, and then but they also get 500,000. These guys get like
if you post less, like you'll get more views,
right?
Because like the scarcity like forces people to watch the content,
right? But we were doing that, but we just weren't making enough to pay.
Yeah,
all of our bills.
Ramped it up and it started doing better, and we just haven't ramped it back down.
We just never ramped it back down. It's just continued, and it's like 4 a week. 4 a week that are probably between an hour to 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I genuinely think that more content is typically better than less, because it gives you more opportunities to go viral, and then also like it shows consistency, and then like when you're constantly posting and you're consistent, man, like the algo is gonna just pick you up. Like some people are able to get away with posting once a week, especially like the bigger names or whatever. But
yeah, we got more shots to hit the bullseye.
Yeah, dude.
Sometimes an interview we don't think is going to go viral gets 500,000 views.
We did one, we got one the other day. It's got what's the one?
It's past 500,000.
And not only that, like the more interviews you do, the more you can like take from that and put clips.
Yeah,
like we got a bunch of clips here that you can use. Like you can literally like cut chops parts up into this and go viral.
Oh no! As you're talking, I'm thinking that's clip. That's a clip.
Yeah.
And
JFK.
I could typically glance over
Captain America.
at Colby, and you can see his hand. Like that's a clip.
Yeah,
that's a clip.
and then it's. Yeah, and then it's
that's why I'm making sure I'm succinct in each clip.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys.
And stockpiles too. Like there's, okay, you can have 52 episodes in a year, or now we have 400. You do that for 3 years, and it's like we have viral clips on all these videos that we used to not clip that we're going back. Let's pull these clips. Let's pull these clips.
No, it's great, man. The thing is that like for a lot of people, they might be lazy. It might be they just don't want to do it, or they have other projects. But I genuinely believe like, you just got to be consistent, put a lot of content on, and you're going to blow up. Like, there's no way. Like, you know what I mean? You hit the algo more and more, like, you're just going to grow.
Do you think anything's going to come of the government files, like JFK files, Epstein files? Think anything comes of that?
The question is, do I think they're going to declassify it?
Yeah. Do you think you're going to declassify? Is there going to be any significant information that comes out with all this declassification?
Yeah. So, okay. Let me first say who was responsible for killing JFK, and then I'll go into what I think about the declassification. So JFK was hated by many people. A lot of people wanted him dead. The mafia, CIA, Zionist regime of Israel, and obviously the deep state in general. So I'll go through why each one wanted him gone. CIA wanted him gone because he vowed to break it into pieces. He had issues with Dulles. He fired him. He had issues with Angleton. He felt like the CIA was just running wild. They were doing a bunch of stuff. He didn't like their, operations they were doing. He didn't like that they were narco trafficking to fund their black ops, etc. He wanted to disband the CIA. The mafia wanted him gone because, so Kennedy's father promised that if the mafia assisted with getting John F. Kennedy elected and rigging the election in Illinois, they would back off and they would be able to continue and operate with, in their secrecy, right? But JFK gets in, his brother, Robert F. Kennedy, Attorney General, he's not a scumbag, makes it his mission, goes after them, brings them in. They're testifying. He's leading an aggressive push against the mafia. Now, this was actually in contrast to what Hoover wanted to do because Hoover didn't like RFK and he didn't want to expose the mafia because Mayor Lansky had compromising photos of him wearing heels. A lot of people don't know J. Edgar Hoover was gay.
Right.
And
he's a cross-dresser too.
He was a cross-dresser. Right. He was gay and he was having an affair with his deputy director. So Hoover kind of was like, I don't want to mess with the mafia because they have these compromising pictures of me. And back then in the 60s, some people might say, well, why did people care? The FBI is gay now. Yeah. Back then in the 60s, you couldn't have a clearance if you were gay. And being the director of the FBI and being homosexual would have been a huge problem for you. So that was problematic. So the mafia wanted him gone because they felt like he betrayed them after they helped him win the state of Illinois. Because it was a very close election. I think he ran against Nixon, was it? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think he ran against Nixon. So,
because Nixon eventually ends up being winning after LBJ, right?
Yeah. So yes, and then LBJ,
he wanted him dead too.
LBJ didn't like Kennedy either, and the only reason LBJ got in is because they brought LBJ in because they pretty much threatened him like, look, we want LBJ in. If you don't bring him in, we're going to expose the fact that you're having sex with all these women because JFK was a womanizer, right? He was a Chad. So a lot of people wanted him gone. Oh, and then Israel. So this is the part that they never talk about, right?
Yeah, I've never heard the Israel part.
Okay, so, and I'll talk about why they haven't talked about the Israel part. So there was a couple of reasons why Israel wanted him gone. Israel was formulated in 1948. The first prime minister, Ben Gurion, they fought very hard, obviously, to create their state through a multitude of different skirmishes with the Palestinians. They were gun Haganah, which ended up becoming the IDF today, former terrorist organizations, but whatever, that's all in the conversation. The point is that Israel understood that they had barely survived a lot of these conflicts and they had just lost in the Suez Canal crisis, right? Got embarrassed, etc. So they realized we need the nuclear bomb. What ended up happening was there was a factory out in Apollo, Pennsylvania called NUMEC. A guy named Shapiro ran it. They were illegally smuggling uranium from this plant destined for what was back then Palestine to Israel. And they were doing nuclear testing and creating nuclear weapons, and they were testing it in Dimona. And they were getting parts, they were working with the French to be able to do this. Kennedy sent a CIA guy over there because he suspected, because they had about 100 kilos missing of this uranium to this area, and they tested the soil. The soil came back pretty pure as uranium, and the only place that could formulate uranium that pure back then in the 60s was this plant in Pennsylvania. So he pretty much puts it together. Israel's doing nuclear testing, and he knew that they wanted to get the nuclear weapon after the Suez Canal crisis in Egypt. So he tells Ben Gurion, look, we have information that you guys are doing nuclear testing. We need to do inspections, and you guys need to de-arm. Ben Gurion panics, doesn't want to do this, creates like a fake, nuclear site, whatever, to have the inspectors come in. Kenny sends the inspectors. He finds out that it was, a sham factory. He finds this out. He says, these sons of bitches keep lying to me, etc. So he kept putting pressure on Ben Gurion to keep doing these nuclear testing. And he threatened to withhold aid from Israel if they didn't give him the nuclear inspections. This was a few months before his death. On top of that, his brother, Robert F. Kennedy, was pushing to get the American Zionist Council to register under FARA, the Foreign Agent Registration Act. Now, this would have had to force the Zionist lobby to disclose where they were getting the money at. Why is that problematic? Well, it's problematic because you got guys like Bugsy Siegel, Meyer Lansky, Murder Inc., etc., aka the Jewish Mafia, the Kosher Mafia. They were contributing quite a bit of money to the Zionist Council alongside Jewish businessmen. So you had legitimate Jewish money, and you had also illegitimate and legitimate Zionist money coming into this organization to fund to send back to Israel. But they didn't want to disclose that because a lot of it was, illegal from the Sunborn Institute, where you got Jewish gangsters and Jewish businessmen working together. So, and they wanted to put them under FARA. So with the nuclear inspections alongside the FARA registration, that would have been a death blow to Israel, because Israel was getting all its support from American Zionists. And then, mind you, prior to the nuclear stuff, they're also illegally smuggling surplus World War II weaponry from the United States to Israel. That's how they were able to get the Palestinians out and win all these skirmishes, is because of the weapons that got smuggled from the United States through South America, destined for Palestine back then, despite the fact that there was an embargo act and they couldn't do that. So Israeli smuggling was super prevalent at post-World War II. And then they eventually got the uranium over there, and they got the nuclear bomb, which to this day, Israel will never acknowledge that they have nuclear capability. They have the nuclear bomb.
Right.
And a guy ended up, Vanunu, a whistleblower, ended up exposing this, and he got put into Israeli prison for 10 years. They did a honeypot on him, and they put him in, they had a Mossad chick, they meet him in Italy, and Mossad ended up kidnapping him there. But that's the guy that blew the whistle on the whole nuclear capability of Israel. That's all their conversation. But anyway, with JFK, so these two things would have absolutely impeded Israel's ability to exist. So they needed him gone. So between the mafia, the CIA, and the Zionist Council, they wanted him gone. And on November 22nd, when JFK was assassinated in Dallas, Texas, the people that organized that meet was actually the Texas Citizens Council, which was overwhelmingly run by Zionist businessmen. Whether it's the guys that were, funding it, etc. The guy that filmed it, Abraham Zapruder, Jewish Zionist. The guy that told Dallas PD to perp walk Oswald in front, where he was eventually shot by Jack Rubenstein. It was a guy named Sam Bloom, Jewish Zionist. So there's Zionist fingerprints all over the JFK assassination. And a lot of people want him gone, right? They say, oh, Oswald the shooter. Oswald wasn't the shooter. There was 6 other shooters there. And I go into detail on this. I did a whole video where we identify each shooter. We talk about why they did what they did, where they came from, etc. So it was 6 shooters, people on the grassy knoll, people in the book depository, people in the textile building. So the other thing also that's very important is there's the biggest movie that covers the JFK assassination is a movie JFK in 1991 by Oliver Stone. Yeah. Oliver Stone is Jewish. His real last name is Silverstein. And then, this is crazy, but the person that funded that film is a guy named Arnan Milchan. Arnan Milchan is a billionaire Jewish Zionist who is a spy, self-admittedly. He admitted that he was a spy on Israeli television, and he was the one that funded JFK. If you watch the JFK film, they go into the CIA connection, they go into maybe a little bit of mafia connection, but interestingly enough, the Israel connection is never mentioned. But then you look and you see, the most popular movie on the JFK assassination conveniently leaves out this critical element of people that wanted him dead, which was the Israeli connection. But then you look at who was involved in directing the movie, and then you look at who was involved in funding the movie. Both Jews, one of them a billionaire spy.
So you think that when they release these, do you think that when they release the files that's going to come out, or you think that's just completely suppressed?
That is one of the, I think that is one of the main reasons they've had the JFK files classified for so long, because there's Israeli connection. Yeah.
I used to think, oh, well, they're waiting for certain people to die. But the truth is, everybody's fucking dead, bro. What are you doing?
And then also interesting. So because JFK also did other things too that people didn't like. He had executive order, I think 1111-0, where he wanted to get us off the fiat currency. He wanted to have the money backed by some type of precious metal. I think he wanted to back it by silver or whatever. He also was trying to get us out of the Vietnam War. He was trying to bring troops back. And obviously we know about the nuclear inspections, getting them registered under FARA. As soon as Kennedy died, Lyndon B. Johnson got sworn in. When Lyndon B. Johnson got sworn in, he turned around everything. He stopped the nuclear inspections. He gave Israel the most amount of money that they've ever gotten. He stopped the fair registrations. He's what I would say he's our support of Israel, where we're super supportive of, Zionism, started with the Lyndon B. Johnson presidential administration and then continued onward. The USS Liberty, when those sailors got killed, 30 sailors got killed, when they got attacked by Israel, he made them all sign gag orders and not talk about it. But we were attacked that day by Israel. And I actually had one of the guys on my show, Phil Turney, and he knew that it was Israel that attacked, but that is suppressed from history, where they came in and they tried to do a false flag and blame it on the Egyptians. But yeah, Israel knew it was a U.S. warship or a spy ship, and they still attacked it. Killed 30 sailors that day. A bunch of them got injured as well. And then Lyndon B. Johnson was the president at the time, made them all sign gag orders. They couldn't talk about it or get fired. Crazy. The huge cover up. USS Liberty. You can look it up. But yeah, but Lyndon B. Johnson absolutely came in and changed everything around that Kennedy had. He stopped the executive order with the money, stopped the fair registration, stopped the Vietnam War from stopping.
Yeah, I was going to say dumped a ton more troops.
Yep. Gave Israel way more funding. So, and he kind of started this trajectory that we have with U.S. presidents with this unequivocal support of Israel. It started with the Lyndon B. Johnson administration. Kennedy was the last person to stand up to Israel, and he died for it.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. I think that's the main reason why they don't want to suppress that stuff. Because if the American people knew,
they've been suppressing it, you mean?
Yeah, that's why they've been suppressing. Sorry, yeah, that they've been suppressing it. If the American people knew that the CIA worked with a foreign government to kill a former sitting U.S. president, the government distrust is already an all-time high.
Right.
So if they expose that, and then Epstein, we know what he was. He was a Mossad asset, compromising politicians for the betterment of Israel. The Attorney General the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, who presided over West Palm Beach when Epstein was there, because the FBI was doing investigations on him all this time. He was told, stand down, he's intelligence. And he said this in an interview later on after he left the Department of Justice. So Epstein was absolutely being protected by high-level people. And, this isn't the first time. You look at someone like a Jonathan Pollard, he spied on the United States. He was probably the worst spy ever, worse than Chris Hansen, who was former FBI. He gave away so many of our secrets to the Russians, and he ended up getting pardoned, and he got flown in a plane, in a private jet, all the way to Israel, and he was met at the tarmac by Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a guy that sold some of our, most important secrets. Israeli spy. But, there's clearly a double standard when it comes to our greatest ally versus, other spies. But yeah, man, absolutely crazy.
When did you start the True Crime channel, and how is it doing?
It's going well. So I started that channel a couple of years ago. I started it like in 2023 or 2022. I think 2023, like late, or maybe it was the end of 2022, Christmas Day. So I used to only film on it once a week. Sunday, I just do a reaction, but now I change it to political and cultural commentary. I go Monday to Friday, 5 p.m., and then I do the True Crime episode on Sunday.
Same channel,
Myron Gaines X on everything.
Okay.
On Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, and I do the True Crime episodes on Sunday specifically.
A lot of content for you to be knowledgeable in all the situations. Are you just educating yourself, consuming it all yourself, or do you have someone helping you curate, hey, this is what's going on? Or is this your self-interest?
It's just myself, man. I watch a lot of documentaries. Hell, I was watching a documentary on like the military industrial complex, like while I was on the way here. I always stay up on the news, what's going on like with politics and stuff like that. Like Israel's planning an attack on Iran imminently in the next couple months here, probably. With or without the U.S. support, they want to get rid of their nuclear facilities because they think that they have nuclear weapons, even though Israel has them. Well, Israel wants to be the only country in the Middle East that has them, is really what it comes down to. Funny story, by the way. Remember that guy Vanunu that I told you about? How he got caught? The guy Vanunu was the guy that was the whistleblower that Israel has nukes.
Oh, yeah.
So, funny story.
The honeypot.
Yes, the guy that got caught with the honeypot. He went to Epstein's father, Ghislaine Maxwell's father. He ran a newspaper. He went to him to try to tell the story. That guy worked for Mossad. He's the one that told Ghislaine Maxwell's father, aka Epstein's probably father-in-law, I guess, because even though they were basically married, even though they say they weren't. Ghislaine Maxwell's father is the one that turned in Vanunu because Ghislaine Maxwell's father worked for Mossad. And he said, hey, this guy has information on new nukes. He has 55 pictures he's trying to put out to the news. Go get him. And they honeypotted him and got his ass to put him in jail. He's alive now, but he converted to Christianity, and I think he left. But he's the one that blew it wide open.
Is he alive still in Israel? Or
no, he's somewhere else. I don't know if he's still alive now.
Oh,
but yeah, he spent like 10 years like in Israeli prison. He went to like a secret court and everything. They treated him like a spy. But he was the whistleblower on it. But he originally went with the story to Ghislaine Maxwell's father, who ran like a newspaper or some kind of media, and he blew the whistle because he worked for Mossad, told him, hey, this guy has the nuclear stuff. And the reason why Israel will never acknowledge that they have nuclear weapons is because that would forbid them from getting foreign aid from us. There was an act, I think, from like 1973, like a nuclear act where
proliferation.
There's a proliferation act that from like 1973. I don't know if it was Ford or Gerald Ford or now I'm drawing a blank. But either way, it's from like the early 1970s. It's an act basically that if you procure nuclear weapons in a certain way, you can't get military or foreign aid from the United States. That is why Israel does not. Okay, now it's going to drive me crazy. I got to look for it. That is why Israel will not acknowledge. They never publicly acknowledge that they have nuclear weapons. 1978, President Jimmy Carter signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Act of 1978 into law, the bill which he had sent to Congress on April 27, 1977. The amendment barred U.S. economic and military assistance to any country that imported or exported spent nuclear fuel, reprocessing, or uranium enrichment equipment, materials, or technology, but failed to comply with International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, full scope safeguards. That is why.
When Trump meets with these guys like Putin or Kim Jong-un, like, do you think that's overall good for the country? Or what? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah.
I think you getting these questions.
I'm just scrolling, looking at YouTube thumbnails, and
people hate Putin. I think I like Putin. I think he's a strong leader. I think making peace with Russia is better than not doing it. I mean, I think we should probably work alongside or at least be amicable with other nuclear powers. That's a big reason why I voted for Trump is because foreign policy, right? Like, look, inflation sucks, eggs are expensive, milk sucks, whatever it may be. But the reality is with inflation, right? You can kind of deal with it. Like you can just make more money, cut your spending, buy certain products, whatever it may be. Like you can kind of deal with inflation, but you can't deal with nuclear warfare. So it's like, and the thing is that the president, who's the commander in chief, and the secretary of defense, they're the two people that got, the power when it comes to, military conflict. So, I knew under Biden, 2 wars broke out. We had obviously the incident go on in Israel and Gaza, and then we got Ukraine and Russia. So I was like, Kamala Harris coming in, funny story, she was in Ukraine a couple of days before Russia invaded. Like someone makes jokes like she gave the terrible blowjob, I guess, because we ended up going to war, or they ended up going to war. But for me, foreign policy was my number one voting thing, and I just want us out of wars. So I think making peace with Russia is the way to go. And I like the fact that like Trump is like, opening up the communication routes, because the Biden administration hasn't talked to Putin for years. And in my head, I'm like, dude, like how the fuck are we going to come to a resolution here if you're not even willing to talk to him? And we're over here giving billions of dollars to Zelensky, like the most corrupt, leader in Ukraine. Ukraine's one of the most corrupt countries. So, that's a lost war. Ukraine's been losing for years. It's amazing to me that Western media finally reported that Ukraine is losing. It took them like 3 years to admit it, but they've been losing. And the reason why is because we want to keep giving them tax dollars. And, the Biden administration didn't want to admit, but we're losing. All of Eastern Ukraine is pretty much gone. Russia has it. They're using the ruble. They're speaking Russian. A lot of them are ethnic Russians anyway. Like, we just need to end that conflict, create a demilitarized zone, let Russia have what they have. Promise not to allow Ukraine into NATO and just end the war, because this is ridiculous at this point, and we're paying for it. So yeah, I think it's smart to people. You talk to other dictators, like bro, they're gonna continue to lead their countries. Like we just need to have diplomatic relations and avoid war. Like these are other nuclear superpowers. People are stupid. They don't get it. So war is bad. I'm very anti-war.
What are your thoughts on this girl that, she slept with 1,000 people in 24 hours?
Oh yeah, Lily Phillips.
God, bro.
Man, that is
horrible.
Would y'all consider having her on the show?
She's been on before.
Oh, she has.
She came on like before she blew up with that stuff. But I mean, that's just that is so that right there is like the final form of feminism. Right? You know what I mean? Like just being a blatant 304 and getting paid for it. And like she doesn't care about changing. I saw like Candace Owens try to talk to her, Russell Brand. this woman doesn't care, man. Like, she's so far gone. She's cooked. She knows she's cooked. You know, RIP to her mental health. Cause like, you know, I remember she did a documentary after she had sex with like 100 guys in a day. And you can like just see the soul like gone from her eyes after. Cause like women aren't designed to be promiscuous. They're just not. Like, you know what I mean? There's a reason why they can only have one baby per year. Like their body is designed to hold one baby per year because they can only incubate one baby per year because they're supposed to have one man having sex with them per year. Well, per life, really. But, you know, they're just not designed to be hoes. So when girls like this go against the grain, it just goes to show how far we fall in a society, to be honest with you. And a lot of women look at that and want to emulate it. They think, I can make a bunch of money or I can go viral. Like so many girls like destroy their life before it even starts, like thinking that they can be stars. But yeah, crazy.
So I have a question. I don't know, bro. Because I like there was a time when I actually watched what was going on with Andrew Tate.
Yeah,
the whole thing. Actually, we did a couple videos on it, but then things progressed from that. Like, what is like the last I had heard, like they had dropped all the charges, but then after that, somebody said they're on home confinement in Romania. Like, what's happening? Well, you know. So it's like two different cases, I guess. And the thing is that like, you know, for the first case, the prosecutors didn't have enough evidence for it to even go to trial. But now they have this other case and like they're refining the file. It's like the criminal justice system in Romania is cooked, dude. Like, what's the second case?
Basically the same stuff, like with some other, you know, alleged victims.
So what do you think the catalyst was for them to listen, the FBI is not going to come and arrest you.
Yeah.
Homeland Security is not going to arrest you if they don't think they can win at trial.
Yes. The feds are they're not coming after you.
Right. I always say this. I'm like, look, the state will arrest you and then build a case.
Yeah.
That's why so many of them will drop the charges. Because once they start investigating, they're like, we can't put this together.
Yep.
And what they're really hoping for is that you'll just say, can I get a plea?
Yep.
But the feds, by the time they grab you, and they're like, I don't give a shit if you take a plea. Like, we'll give you one.
Yeah.
But
we've been watching you for years.
Yeah. You're done. You go to trial, you're losing.
Yeah.
So, do you want to take
like
one?
When I would work with AUSA, like we wouldn't, my AUSAs wouldn't even indict unless they felt they can win at trial.
Right.
They weren't even indicting unless they were ready to go to trial. Like when I gave them we call it grand jury package. When I hand that over, that was pretty much ready to go to trial right then and there. All the evidence. So, but yeah, Romania is not as refined. Like for them, there's no probable cause. They can arrest you, then do the investigation. It's all fucking.
Yeah, they can hold you for a certain period of time.
Yeah, it's completely fucked up, right? As with a lot of these, you know, Eastern European countries.
So initially they grab him. Yep. They eventually 6 months or 8 months or later he gets out. He gets on a monitor. They're both
house
on
arrest.
House arrest.
Yep.
Eventually they drop that case, and then they've brought another case, which is what? Is it similar to the first one?
Yeah. So the first one, I don't think they dropped it, but what basically they said was the judge said that this is not sufficient to go to trial. Like, you know, prosecutors go work on this. And then there's like another case coming where apparently he's going to get indicted a second time, but we don't know anything about this second case yet. Like,
so it's basically just, this is like three or four women that are saying, oh, he did this, and that's what their whole thing is based on, three people's work.
It's like the thing. And then you got the UK, who they've been trying to go after them for years. Like they tried this like in 2012 or 2013. They tried to come at him, and like the prosecutor never actually made a case. Now the UK has a case against them, and they want them extradited. So you know what, dude? It's like it's so. I don't know what to think anymore, because like when I looked at it, I was like, what the hell? Like, where are these women coming from? Whatever. Like, a lot of these women are like girls that work for them, or girls that they know, or girls that they dated. Like a couple of these girls said, why am I a victim on here? I don't want to testify. Like, it's just off, man. It's just off. But then you look at like what's going on in Romania with like, they had a guy that was democratically elected, and then they like overturned the election anyway. Like, Romania is an extremely corrupt country. I've been there a few times. Nice place. No fat girls, which is great. But it's a poor, corrupt country at the end of the day.
Did they take all of his cars and everything?
They gave him back.
Oh,
he got most of them back. So it's like, yeah, dude. It's like they took his money, they took his cars, they gave him.
Do you think that's what the goal was? Probably
I think
let's strip this guy's a bunch of money. He's running his mouth. Strip him. Nobody's going to say anything,
dude. Yeah, because like in Romania, it's a very poor country. I think the average Romanian makes like $200 a month, $300 a month. Those guys are making millions. They're rich as fuck. Like, especially when you take and you put it in Romania. So like, these guys, the amount of money they've seized or whatever from them, like they don't have to worry about that. Goes all to the government. So even if they're not able to prove a case, like they got a bunch of money and it's a corrupt country. So it's like, it's crazy because it's like, they don't have enough evidence, but now they're going to come with some other charges. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Like the judges said themselves, like, yeah, there's not enough evidence here to go to trial, which means the case is weak. It's flimsy.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just wild, dude. I just saw today, came out today that the Trump administration is like saying like, hey, what's going on with these guys?
Right.
Because they are American citizens.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Did they go?
They were the Trump thing.
They were on your show before they kind of blew up, right? Or
Yeah.
Did your show? I've heard. I think I've heard people say like Fresh and Fit blew up Tate. Obviously that and other clips.
Oh shit! Yeah, no, I mean you're familiar. Like I don't like to take credit for it. Like I always say, Andrew and Tristan were going to be big no matter what, right? We were just, we had the honor of hosting them before they had the meteoric rise, but they were going to blow up no matter what. How'd
you guys come across them? Like were they like full were they full go at that point? Like as far as what their message when you first met them?
Yeah, so they've always had the same views, really. They haven't really changed. The thing is like, so they were already famous. A lot of people don't know this. The Tate brothers were already really famous in Romania way before being famous in the U.S. They're like A-list celebrities over there, but they had spent so much time in Europe that like the Western audience didn't know about them yet. So we had known about them. So like my partner Fresh had like done a stream with Andrew, and then because we agree on like 90% of stuff. So like, hey, you guys got to come out to Miami, hang out with us. We'll get a yacht, whatever. So they came to Miami. We got a yacht. We had a good ass time. Took pictures. Shot some content, and then we did the first podcast with Andrew, and it blew up, right? And it was awesome. We had like a 3-hour conversation. We covered so many different things. But yeah, man, definitely, we had them on before the meteoric rise, but I truly do think they would have blew up no matter what.
The first podcast I did was a guy named Danny Jones, which is not far from here. And I did that, and it got a couple million views. It was like a 2.5 hour thing of me just telling my story. But it was amazing because keep in mind, bro, I'm just out of the halfway house.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been out maybe 3 months. I'd been out like 3 months. And so many people were, my email's not out there. They're tracking me down. They're finding me, which I'm thinking that's impossible. They're finding my email, and then guys are asking me questions like, bro, like, can you talk to me? I have a problem. I don't really have any male influences or any strong males in my life. And they're asking. And to me, a guy who'd been locked up 13 years, on the run 3 years, grew up with a dad. Like when I went to prison, this wasn't an issue. Mm-hmm. This wasn't something you talked about. Certainly wasn't something that somebody felt comfortable. If it was an issue for you, nobody felt comfortable enough to even ask. Yeah. You just you hit it, you dealt with it yourself. Guys are emailing me saying, I'm 22 years old, I'm 21 years old, I've never had a girlfriend, I've never this. And I'm thinking, how's that possible?
Dude, it's crazy.
And so it wasn't until I got on YouTube and I started seeing these videos and seeing the way these guys behaved that I was like, it was the fact that it was actually an issue, and it was something that in prison I never heard about this in prison. That's not, first of all, you don't have internet in prison, you don't have YouTube, you don't have any of that in prison. You've got an email system that that even the email system is going through. It's a pass-through email system, so I can't email you directly. Mm-hmm. It's basically you leave a message here, I check the message, I leave a message here, you go check that. So,
gotcha.
So there's none of that. Maybe I get to watch TV, but they're not covering this stuff.
Yeah,
not at that time. So anyway. What's funny is, so I started hearing about all that, and so as I'm looking into it, your videos start popping up. Your videos, Andrew Tate's videos, yep. The other influencers in that kind of genre start showing up, and I just remember being shocked. And then I'm still not thinking anything about it, right? Like I'm not thinking it's as people are taking this as serious as they are. I'm very like at that time I was living in someone's spare room. Actually, I was living in a rooming house. Mm-hmm. I just out of the halfway house, and it was here. I just moved here. I had a contract with a production company, and we were doing an entire series based on my stories. So I have an agreement with you. We're shooting. We're doing videos. I have that closet. There's a whole soundproof thing, and I spent 20 hours with these people that I flew out to LA and met, right? I went out to LA and met a bunch of producers, and these producers came and they made an offer. And so I'm now doing I'm going to do a whole series.
Nice.
So this is where I explained to you that that Andrew Tate got me fired. So I do 20 hours with these guys on one of my stories, because when I was in prison, I wrote a bunch of true crime stories. I don't know if you know that. So, and some of them I've optioned, sold options.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I mean,
Nothing's ever been made.
Yeah.
But, you know, so these guys are like optioning those stories, and we're doing an entire series based on them. So we're doing the stories, and I've done 20 hours, and at some point, now keep in mind they're from LA. They've talked to me, but just about my story.
Yeah.
They don't know my opinion. They don't know, you know, and I feel like I don't try and offend anybody. You know, my opinions are my opinions. I'm not pushy. And Andrew Tate had just been canceled.
Okay. So this is 2022, August, around that time.
Right. I just kind of moved. Yeah, exactly. We just, because I had another.
He's a good friend of mine. So yeah, I remember this vividly when they canceled him everywhere.
Yeah. Listen, man. And I remember too, when that happened, I was like, this is, first of all, initially his response sounded like, I was like, come on, bro. And everybody's not against you. And then this one and this one and this one.
It was literally domino effect.
And
YouTube,
I was like,
Instagram, Meta, all like same week, Twitter, everywhere.
Listen, and then everything that he initially, the insanity of videos that he was talking about prior to that seemed so insane, came to fruition over the next 6 months. And I was like, like, this guy is saying, like, this is how it works. This is what they do. This is how they come for you. And then boom, 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 boom. And then he's arrested in another country. Then they're persecuting him. Now, eventually, they're, you know, like, it's like, well, you have no evidence. They're saying you have no evidence. Anyway, my point is that I'm doing this whole thing with these guys, but keep in mind, they're from LA.
Yeah. Super woke.
Yeah. And I have no idea. Like, I'm really not sure, right? Like, it's, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to say anything crazy or anything. And every once in a while they say something. And I remember and looking back on it, you'll appreciate this, is that I had there were two producers. One of the producers was a female. And at some point we talked about my which is my wife now, the girl we were dating at the time. And I started dating her. And I said something. I said, yeah, she didn't even want to date me when we first started dating. You know, we were going to go to dinner, and she was like, well, we'll go as friends. And I was like, no, I don't want to go as friends. We're not going as friends. And she's like, why? And I think I told you this. I was like, no, we're not going as friends. I'm like, it's a date. Yeah. She's like, well, I don't want it to be a date. We'll just go as friends. We can't be friends. I was like, no. I was like, there's no reason for me to be friends with you. I was like, let me, and she's like, why? Nice. And I said, let me explain something. I said, because the whole time that you're thinking we're building a friendship, I'm thinking, how do I fuck this chick?
Yeah.
I said, I don't need that. I'm just not going to be friends with a hot chick that I want to fuck. So I want to date you. I'm not going to mislead you. She's like, well, then we won't go out on a date. I said, then we won't go out on a date.
Yeah.
I'll find someone else. You'll find someone else that is interested.
Yeah.
Calls back, you know, a week later. Well, we can go, you know, so this goes on for like 2 or 3 weeks till eventually we actually do meet. Mm-hmm. And we meet, and of course we make out that night and everything's good, and then we start dating. And it's funny too, because I remember I was talking to my ex-wife on the phone before I was going there, and she says to me, why are you going on a date with a chick that's told you she's not interested, said she doesn't want to date you? I go, because I think she does want to date me. She texts me, she flirts with me, I think she's interested. And she goes, she's told you she's not. I was like, right. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to go to dinner. I'm going to be charming. I'm going to be funny. And I said, at the end of the date, I'm going to lean in to kiss her. And she goes, what if she doesn't kiss you? I said, well, then I know.
Yeah.
Then I know. I'm not afraid. Listen, for 13 years, every 2 weeks, when my mother came to see me, I had a guy tell me, strip down naked, bend over, spread your ass cheeks, and cough.
Yeah.
You can't embarrass me.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'm like, if she pulls back, she pulls back. Now we know, and I know 100% I'm wrong. And if she does kiss me, then I know it was all bullshit to begin with.
Yep.
So, and of course, you know, it works out. But that conversation I have with one of the producers.
Yep.
We're joking, like I don't know what happened.
The female overheard, though.
She hears the conversation.
Every single time, bro.
They bring in another producer. I now think she was so offended that, you know, because she was like, you don't think men and women can be friends? And I'm thinking, I go, no.
Yeah. No, you dumb bitch.
I'm like, that's not, no, I don't believe that. I'm sorry. I'm like, I have girls that are friends but I'm not attracted to them. They're married. We're not attractive, and we're not going out to dinner.
Yeah.
We're not hanging out.
Yeah.
You know, this is like we're dating as couples. You know, we go to events as couples. So, you know, what I say, we're friendly, we're friends, but you know, we're not hanging out.
And that's a very nice and professional way to say it. I'm worse.
Anyway, what happens is, so I'm still working with these guys.
Yeah.
20 hours later, they bring in this new producer. We have several episodes, and at some point, we are talking about the financial crisis.
Okay.
And she's a black woman, and she makes a comment. Keep in mind, this is on Riverside, you know, the platform Riverside. So I can see them, they can see me. Okay. And I see her go, ugh, you know, this system's it's rigged. She says something about it being rigged by old white men.
Of course.
And I was like, okay, but they can see my face.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, don't say anything. She didn't know what, you know, whatever. And I was like, okay. Anyway, and then so suddenly the one producer is like, okay, well, he's like, what do you think about that, Matt? First of all, it has nothing to fucking do with this, what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about one of my stories here.
Yeah.
It happened to happen during the financial crisis.
She makes us off the cuff remark.
Right.
Yeah.
That I guess I'm going to ignore. I disagree, but I'm going to ignore. It's a system that's allowed
You're
you
nice
to be.
To me. I would have been like, shut the fuck up, Shaniqua.
Yeah. But she, anyway, so she,
shut the fuck up, Shaniqua.
So she says that. I say something. I go, well, I disagree. And I'm like, well, and I said, but it's fine. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, it's fine. We'll just agree to disagree. He's like, well, what do you mean? He digs in. We start talking. Then we start going back and forth. Well, what do you think about this? Well, I don't understand. What do you mean? And we go back and forth. And to shorten the story, it ends up being, I said, I just don't understand why you can't have a disagreement with someone. And I said, it's like if you agree with 85% or 90% of what someone says, and they say 10% you disagree with, suddenly you want to get canceled.
Yeah.
And she makes a comment about Andrew Tate.
Of course.
And I went, and I said, I feel like that's ridiculous. I'm like, look, I agree. He probably 15% of what he says, I said, I disagree with. So, you know, I disagree that you should have, you know, whether you can afford it or not, you should be able to have 4 wives or 5 wives. I think that
you believe in monogamy.
Yeah. Well, okay. I believe that this country is based on Western values, and you get married and you have 2 or 3 kids, and you know, that's, I believe
I get
that.
it. Fair enough.
Right. So other than that, I'm on point. Wake up early, work out, open their doors, pay for things, be a man, make money. If you work 3 jobs, if you have to, like I agree with everything else. Mm-hmm. I just have an issue with how you go about treating women, and also probably the it's the pitch. You know what I'm saying? It's the delivery. Yeah. Like the message is great, the delivery, but that's the shock value that got him the attention, right?
Of course, yeah.
He's toned it way down now.
Yeah.
Right? So, but initially I get it. That it was a shock value, and that's what gets you all the views. So as I'm explaining this, I'm like, but I disagree. I said, I disagree with some stuff, but I agree with most of it. And she's like, I said, let's face it. I said, a lot of stuff he says is funny. And she's like what? And I said, well, it's funny. I said, and some of it, it's true. Like I said, look, let's face it. If you're a hot chick, I probably shouldn't have said chick. Mm-hmm. I said, if you're a hot chick, I said, like he has this thing where he's like, look, a man has to make all the right decisions throughout his entire life to end up getting on, standing on a $20 million yacht.
Yep.
Said, this chick can have a makeup kit and be 22 years old, fuck that guy, fuck him for 2 or 3 years, and she can end up with that yacht. Yep. And I said, listen, the top 10 most wealthy women, I'm like, 8 of them made all their money because they married a rich man and divorced him. 2 of them, one of them inherited it, and then one of them barely makes the list at all, and she's nowhere near in the top 1,000 richest people as when you throw in men in. Exactly. I'm like, but out of women, yeah, she's in there. She made her own money. Get it? Like Martha Stewart.
1 out of 10.
So I say that, and they're like, you can just see the look on their face. They're like, okay, Matt, this is the guy. He's like, Matt, I think we're going to have to talk about this. And I'm sitting there going,
bruh,
keep in mind too, this agreement, this contract with them, I'm probably going to make $200,000 or $300,000 at least. Yeah. And I went, I'm not realizing what I've said. Yeah. And I went, they said, so I'll get back. Let me give you a call in a couple of days. We're going to have a talk about this. And I was like, I said, okay. So I said, are we done? He's like, yeah. I said, oh, okay. And I just disconnected. 2 days later, hey, Matt, are you available to talk at 2:00, whatever? I'm like, yeah, sure. I talked to the guy. He's like, yeah, we're going to have to sever the relationship.
Wow.
He's like, I mean, I'm not saying you're a misogynist, but, you know, I have to worry about my employees and protect them. Wow. And I'm thinking, that was it. And my first thought was, Andrew Tate got me fired. I just said the same thing. And I'm like, and listen, afterwards, when I had a conversation with my wife about what happened, and she's like, you need to keep your opinions to yourself.
Isn't that crazy though?
You also have to understand that, like, if you want to get your message out there, you have to, I mean, I understand you've obviously made your decision on this.
Yeah.
You know, you have to, a big part of it is delivery. Like,
of course,
like take, Peterson, why can't I never?
Jordan Peterson?
Jordan, I always want to say Jordan Belfort. Yeah. So Jordan Peterson, he's not saying anything different than anybody else is saying.
Yeah.
But he says it much more analytically, much more calmly. He must be politically correct. Listen, they still fucking go after him.
Yeah.
Like, so I just think it's the delivery. Yeah. That's the biggest
and
problem.
That's kind of what I realized. I looked at it like, whether you're posh like Jordan Peterson or you're a bit more crass about it like Andrew Tate, they're going to go after you no matter what. So I looked at it like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to call it like it is. And I do think also that there's a level of respect that's gained from being genuine and saying things how you want to say them. Obviously, there's places where you can, you know, practice some decorum, et cetera, when you're on other people's platforms. But I do think in general, when it comes to you making your own content or whatever, people do have like a ridiculous amount of appreciation for people that can just say things like they are.
So when you got kicked off
these
TikTok,
opinions are mine, not Matt's, guys. Yeah. Okay.
So when you got kicked off of TikTok, did you start another one and get kicked off again?
Yeah, like I got kicked off so many different times. I just stopped making accounts. But TikTok, alongside doing the podcasts, and mind you, in 2020, YouTube wasn't as inundated with creators as it is now. Like it really got saturated in 2020 because a lot of people ended up like thinking, I'm going to be on the internet. So luckily for us, like we kind of got in at a good time. We utilized TikTok. We did it. And we also, the big thing that we did was we kind of came in with good equipment off rip. We came in with good cameras, good microphones, and we were able to scale the podcast from there because we had a good foundation. So I would say those things definitely helped with us growing pretty quickly.
What happened with, I mean, you're on YouTube, but
we still are. So what ended up happening is we got demonetized in August of 2023.
Permanently demonetized?
Well, yeah, we've been demonetized since. We reapplied, but like honestly, we're not holding our breath. But we work with Rumble quite a bit. So we still stream on YouTube. All of our content is still there. But like anytime we get into like, you know, touchy subjects or whatever, we switch to Rumble. Because like we dual stream. Like we'll stream everywhere. And then like whenever things go crazy, we just switch to Rumble. Which, you know, obviously, you know, shout out to Chris Pavlovsky and Rumble because, you know, they stand for free speech. And I hope that the rest of these tech companies kind of, well, you see them kind of going that route now.
Listen,
they're trying now when Trump came in, because on day one, Trump signed his executive order where he would ban government collusion with social media companies to suppress people, which actually happened to us. And you guys can look this up. The Department of Homeland Security wrote a paper talking about the manosphere and hateful content. And us, Andrew Tate, Pearl, Sneeko, a bunch of big, pro-masculine creators were put on this list. And we got, like, I've noticed, like, they've shadow banned us on YouTube. It's harder to find us. Views went down. People randomly unsubscribe. So they absolutely launched a crusade against us on this paper, as well as many other red pill channels. But, you know, now technically that's illegal with this executive order that Trump signed because, like, literally it's the government writing a paper. They did a whole congressional hearing on this too. They literally went after American citizens and suppressed our voice on YouTube, colluding with them.
So Facebook, Mark, what's his name? Zuckerberg.
We got banned off Meta too.
Yeah.
We got banned off Meta. Know, and he's saying, you know, more freedom of expression. We'll see what happens.
I was going to say that, like, what a turnaround.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like
huge
when he did a whole video on it and everything, the whole time I'm thinking, man, bro, like if I had very little respect for you to begin with, like your complete turnaround, like I get it. Like at this point, he's like, hey, I just need to cut my losses. Like I get it, but it's like, wow, like he wrote
that memo where he purposely admitted, like, yeah, we pushed, COVID information out, pressure of the Biden administration. Like, dude, Mark Zuckerberg is the biggest piece of shit scumbag. All these tech guys are, all of them, honestly. Like, they're all just here for self-interest. They're getting in with Trump now because they understand that they need to protect their self-interest. None of these guys are Republicans. None of these guys are right-wing. They were all liberal Democrats that voted for Hillary in 2016. They voted for Biden in 2020. They're only switching their stance up now to protect themselves.
That's pretty much what I was going to say. But
oh, sorry, I didn't mean
I was going to probably be softer about it. So yeah. I do have a question.
Sure.
Okay. So have you considered softening your tone for these other to get back on these other platforms?
Well, I made a new Instagram. It's Myron Gaines X, and Twitter. It's all my stuff is Myron Gaines X. So I'm still around. The Instagram's growing at a good rate. The YouTube channel, which I do political and cultural commentary now too. I do that every day at 5, and then we also do Fresh and Fit as well. So my thing is this, right? If I go on other people's platforms, right, I chill out a little bit, depending on how crazy I can go, right? I'm obviously very respectful of people's platforms. But for me, I look at it like, I always let loose on Rumble or Castle Club, which is like our Rumble and Castle Club work together, like locals. It's like our paywall stuff. But, I think there's, an enormous amount of value to be had when you tell the truth, especially about some political topics that are a bit taboo that no one wants to talk about. But, I cover all that stuff. I might touch on it on YouTube a little bit. I keep it clean. But all the other stuff is on Rumble. But yeah, I'm more aware of like where I'm at. Like if I'm on YouTube, I can't say certain things,
right?
And then I'll just switch to Rumble, say what I got to say, or Twitter. On Twitter, I'm pretty crazy on there. I'm a lot more political on Twitter, and I cover a bunch of different issues on there. I'll say, some people say, well, Myron, where do you lean? A lot of people say that I'm like far right or alt right, whatever the hell that means. I would say I'm right wing. The only thing I'm like a little bit more center on is like abortion. Like I think I think pro-choice to a degree is fair. But everything else I'm pretty, right leaning on when it comes to immigration, taxes, foreign policy, yeah. So, but nowadays, like, right wing was getting suppressed for so long on social media. So thank God that Trump's in. So now we can like say what the hell we want to say. But like, yeah, dude, for the past 4 years, they've been beating us up, censoring us. So it's like really annoying.
Have you ever had any girls on your show that have changed your mind on anything that you had like a solid point or solid stance on? So
one of the girls actually that works for us, her name is Icy. Shout out to her. She was like a dancer and like always drinking, right? Like she was a stripper. She was always drinking alcohol. Like her life was kind of like, living the fast life. And she came on our podcast a few times and like she really started listening to what we're saying. Now she works for us and like she stopped dancing. Like, she's focused on being a good mother to her kid. And like, she's woken up kind of, right, from the what she's been told and lied to about. So, that's one girl I could say like for sure, like she's like changed her whole mindset. But there's been plenty of girls that like came on the show, we pissed them off, and then they come back on a few years later, they got a boyfriend now, or they got a family or whatever. And I'm like, holy shit, or they lost weight. So, or like girls will DM me, or this happens a lot too, where like I'll be out. Like I went to a Gymshark event like a week ago. And like the first group of girls that like first group of people that came up to me were actually women, which is like not always the case because like mostly men watch my stuff. But they're like, yeah, I watch your show with my boyfriend. Like any girl that watches my content 9 out of 10 times, she has a serious husband, a boyfriend, or like a fiance.
Right.
And it's like, at first I watched your stuff and it really pissed me off, right? Like they didn't like the way the delivery, as you were saying.
Yeah.
But like, everything you say is right. Like, it was hard for me to accept it at first, but like, it made me a better woman. And I'm like, damn, like that's great. And then like, hell, on the way here, a guy came and stopped me at the airport with his fiance, like, or his wife. And he's like, yeah, we watch your show together. I'm like, damn, like, it's cool.
Oh, yeah,
so,
yeah, I was going to say, if I get recognized, you must get recognized just all the time.
Oh, yeah,
right?
it's a blessing, man. And like when women do come up to me, they almost always have like a significant other. And I'm like, damn, that's good. They're like, we helped you find a boyfriend or we helped you in your relationship.
What is your, on the, analytics, like when I started the podcast, it was 98.5% male. It's down to 92% male for us. I don't know what it, you know what I'm saying?
Right now, mine.
Is it down to 92? Because because initially it was almost 100% men. And now it's slowly women are, and now I notice more and more women in the comments.
It's
women love true crime.
80% male, 19.7% female. 0.4% other.
It's what now?
80-20.
80-20?
That's great.
Wow.
Well, they're going to be mad now.
Oh, I just lost a bunch of them. But
yeah, well, I saw that. Remember that the lady who commented this the lady commented like something about some negative comment about you on not Margot Robbie, Nadine's episode.
Right.
And then you're like, wow. Like you said, like, wow, that's just mean. And then she came back.
That's mean-spirited. She came back?
Yeah, she's like, oh yeah, she came back. She's like, I'm sorry. Do you ever? Yeah, go ahead.
So for us right now, I'm looking, this went up. 5% women, 94.7% men, 5% women, which is crazy because I didn't think we had way less women. It was like 1% before.
This is just a reverse of the question I asked before. Have you ever had any girls change your mind on any stance, any issues that you had like a pretty firm opinion on?
I would say, so I've always been familiar with like women's gripes, right? Like as much as people say that like, oh, you just shit on women all the time. Like I'm completely, sensitive to their gripes where we got an epidemic of men that are soft, fat, don't understand that there's a masculine burden performance. They got to get out there and make money, be providers, etc. Like I'm very sensitive to that. I would say if anything, it's definitely made me more, these are things that I always suspected in my head of like why women have issues with men. But like it confirmed it, that like guys just aren't holding up their part, which is, to be fair, like, yeah, a lot of guys are losers. But the one thing I will say that was interesting that I didn't foresee is that more guys stink than I thought. Like that's like the number one complaint from women is hygiene from men. That's
like physically stink.
Like bad hygiene is like the number one complaint that I got from women for like modern guys.
Weird.
Besides them being brokies is bad hygiene.
Yeah.
So testosterone in the last 50 years, testosterone levels for men have dropped dramatically. Yeah. What do you think? I'm wondering if you have a theory on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a culmination of different things. It's the food, the water, feminism, like where we're telling men to like embrace their vulnerability, behave more like women. The TV, the pop culture. If you look at like if you look at movies in the 80s, right? Rambo, fucking Terminator, etc. You look at people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Rocky, etc. Like the masculine leaders, Jean-Claude Van Damme, hell, even into the 90s, like there was this whole thing with like being strong, being masculine, being the superhero. Like you had this archetype. Then once you get into the 2000s, what do? They start like getting thinner, weaker, being more effeminate. And then now we're at a woke point where it's like the superheroes, we're trying to like make them women and like woke now.
This is a more selfish question for us, but sure. Twitter, you don't have to say numbers, but are you monetized on Twitter?
No, I'm demonetized on Twitter.
Okay.
I'm demonetized and they took my badge away.
Yeah.
Bro, what?
Yeah.
You can't you can't dial it back just a hair just to stay monetized.
Funny story. So I got so the reason why I got debadged on Twitter was because there was a controversy going on with H-1B visas. And I'm very strict on immigration. Like I think we need an immigration moratorium. I think we need to stop bringing people in for a few years to kind of fix the problems that we have here in the United States. And, I used to work in immigration, so I'm like very familiar with how people scam the system. And the H-1B visa is a huge visa that scams. So you got Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk like advocating for the H-1B visa. And I was like, no, you guys are fucking wrong. Like you guys don't know shit about immigration. You guys are billionaire idiots that don't know how immigration works. Like, and you guys don't understand like what the general population of America is dealing with. And these H-1B visas is nothing more than a visa that comes in and replaces American labor of skilled workers here. We need to employ Americans, America first, not these foreigners. Get the fuck out of here. Right. And they don't like that. So, I was, I was being very critical of the H-1B visa, and Elon didn't like that. And he took my badge away for that. So whatever, fuck Elon Musk.
Can you imagine Elon Musk? Okay, listen,
and
bro,
I was ratioing him too on X, and he didn't like that either. So, and I'm also critical of like Israel. So like that's another reason too on X. So like, yeah, that just happens, I guess. But they demonetized me a minute ago. Like I was like, whatever. But then once they took my verification away, I was like, okay, well this is still lame. But I still get a lot of impressions and grow like crazy.
Do you have any idea? Listen, I mean, I understand. Like you're in a different position than I am. Mm-hmm. But the idea that like 6 years ago I was laying in a bed in a prison, wondering how I was going to feed myself.
Yeah.
And that I'm now paying my bills, making silly videos.
Yeah.
This is a silly conversation.
Yeah. This isn't like, this isn't work. It's not.
Right.
That's why when I see streamers like, what's harder, a 9-to-5 job or making videos? I'm like, dude, you guys are fucking spoiled dumb fucks if you really think that YouTube is harder than a real job. Like, look, yeah, it's a lot of work, But like, dude, this isn't the same as working a real job. Like, this is like a blessing.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, this really just gives me the ability to spend my time doing other projects that I find interesting that will never really make me any money.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like the idea but see, you had more of a serious job. You were a serious person 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that 10 years ago that you would be in a position where Elon Musk would even spend 5 seconds thinking, you know what, let's go ahead and take this badge and do this. And
dude,
let's try and tighten down on this guy. Like me, like I'd be like, I'm nobody. I make silly videos. Like how is anything I'm saying upsetting you?
Yeah.
In general, like even the people that have been on your platform.
Yeah.
That are serious people. You know what I'm saying? To me, it's like these are serious people that I would be sitting across. Even Lex Friedman, that I'm, went on Lex Friedman, and then I'm sitting across from Lex Friedman, or
he blocked me too. You blocked me, fucking pussy.
I mean, you do understand that eventually you'll run out of people to piss off.
Yeah, no, the thing with him, because what I say about him that made him cry, like I said, I think I made like a, I think I posted like a meme that pissed him off. Because he posted something about him being in Ukraine or some shit, and I just like made fun of him. And I also made jokes. I said like, Lex Friedman is the best podcast anytime I want to go to sleep. Come on, man. Let's be honest. Like, bro, he's so fucking monotone and boring.
He does have the morning. He has a very monotone voice.
Dude, that's what got me blocked. I said, anytime I need to go to sleep, I throw on a Lex Friedman podcast.
Do you block people?
He's better than melatonin. No, I don't really block people.
I never really even people that are called,
he's sensitive. He blocks anybody that talks about him on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah, Lex Friedman is super sensitive.
To piggyback on similar situation, there was a picture of 50 Cent holding text from Drake of a list of his ops.
That I was on there?
Yeah. So what's the story?
Yeah, so I basically said that Drake is responsible for like the effeminate generation of men that we have. I said that he's like single-handedly one of the biggest perpetrators of like making men weak and pussy. Because if you think about it, like he's been popular since like 2007, and like guys have just gotten like weaker and woker and softer ever since. Like, because he's like made it cool to like be effeminate and act like a woman. I mean, my feelings. You know what I mean? So it's like, dude, he took like hip hop and like made it like weak. You know what I mean? So like that's probably why. And one of the tweets went viral when I said that.
Do you think that ever reverses for the majority of men?
What reverses?
That the majority of men will be more masculine over time or more feminine over time?
I think we're working on it. Like guys like me and Andrew Tate, like we're hitting it hard trying to get guys to wake up. But the reality is that like, there's a reason why like only 40% of men have procreated since the beginning of time. Like a majority of guys just aren't going to get it. Like a lot of guys are just going to end up being simps, suckers.
Like I don't get like, you remember, you've heard me say this about my buddy, David Simpson.
The guy that would go up to the girls and be like, hey, what's your number?
Listen, when I was driving around, I was like 17. Was he younger than me? Older. He's a year younger or a year older. I'm driving around. Mm-hmm. This is back. Wait, you don't even remember this, bro. This is
what year was this?
This is back in 1986, 87. So this was our I don't know, internet or whatever you want to call it, Facebook or Instagram, was going to a strip mall.
Mm-hmm.
This was back when malls were a thing.
Okay.
And you wouldn't go to the mall. You couldn't go to the mall and do this. You had to go to the strip mall. And you would, all the high school kids would come and they would just drive around the strip mall. I mean, we're talking about.
Oh yeah, I used to do that. Like go to the mall to pick up girls. But yeah, right. This was
this was a continuous stream of cars, just like that. And guys are hanging out of cars, and girls would go and they'd get out and they're standing there and they talk to guys as they went by, or girls would, whatever. And so.
That used to be great.
It was pretty cool, right?
I watched the old film from not film, but like an old like commercial from the 90s, and a girl, they asked the girl, "What are you doing here at the mall?" And she was like, "To meet boys."
Yeah.
But sorry, continue on.
So David Simpson's this kid. He's actually, I know he was younger than me. That's right, because I was driving. I'm 17. He was probably, I was 16 or I was probably 16 or 17. He was like a year younger than me. Mm-hmm. But he's tall, probably 5'10", 5'11". And I actually had dinner with him. We text every once in a while to this day. Like, lost track of him, of course, because I was a lunatic for a while there. But he literally, I'm 16, 17 years old, and terrified to really talk to girls, right? Like mm-hmm. I always had a girlfriend, but really was not the kind of guy that went up and talked to girls mm-hmm. at that time. And David, he's driving and sees a group of fucking girls and goes, "Whoa, hold on!" Boom, opens the door. I'm still moving. Gets out and walks over. This happens all night. Walks over, walks right up to like the hottest chick there. He's like, hi, my name's David Simpson. And she's like, hi, shakes his hand. He's like, I'm sorry, you're beautiful. Is there any way I can get your number? And the girl would be like, oh, yeah. And they would write the number down and get it. He'd go, okay, I got to catch up with my buddy. And then he'd run and jump in.
See, guys don't do that anymore.
He'd get 5 or 10 phone numbers throughout the night. And I remember being like,
nice,
bro, like aren't you embarrassed? And he's like, why? And I was like, because like, what if that girl says no? And he's like, I don't know her. And he was like, I'll never see this chick again.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know, but still she says no, like it's embarrassing. Like he was, listen, he said, Matt, he said, as many times as I ask, girls will laugh. This kid's a year younger than me.
Yep.
Girls will laugh or say like, oh my God, they'll give me the whole, oh, I would never, or I have a boyfriend. He's like, that's fine. He's like, I say, well, I totally get that. I get why you have a boyfriend. You're beautiful. Good luck. He's like, I made her feel better. I softened her up for the next guy. He goes, I jump back in the car and I keep going. He goes, at the end of the night, I got 10 phone numbers. I make the phone calls. He goes, they're waiting for me to call. He's like, date whoever I want to date. And he was like, it's fine.
Sales, dude. Like literally dealing with women is sales.
He's a salesman now.
Damn. There you go.
Owns his own company.
Nice.
Sells windows and doors to new construction. Flies all over the country. Anyway.
But that's what it is. You got to get the volume in. Like what girls.
By the way, and has a beautiful wife. Beautiful, I think it's 3 daughters that he hates all the guys they're dating.
Oh, God.
He also went in the military.
Daughters are cursed, man.
He's very much a guy's guy too, by the way. But it was after I met him that I decided, like, I don't know this chick. I've never seen this chick before.
Dude. And that's why I want sons. I'm like, man, fuck that.
Listen, it reminds me of the Dana White thing where he said he's telling his kids. He's like, listen, if you're even half a fucking savage, like you're just gonna fucking rake up in life because everybody's so fucking weak.
Yeah, they are.
But in general, I'm saying that was the guy, and that's why I don't get it when you hear like 40% of guys at 25 or 30 have never slept with a girl or never had a girlfriend. It's like
bad.
I don't. It's because I think
you come from a different era, and then
right,
also like so, and I've talked about this in detail too on our show. So women back then had to get outside to meet men, right? They had to like get outside and actually do a little bit of work. But now with the internet and online dating, Instagram, etc., they're getting DMs from everybody. They think they're the shit, dude.
Right.
It's really bad. Like women have a level of hubris, like especially like in Gen Z, that is unheard of because it's not healthy to get thousands of messages from men all over the place. And not only that, they're getting messages from dudes that are celebrities, athletes, multimillionaires, etc. Like that does something to their ego. By the time they come on my show, like they think they're
delusional.
The best. They're delusional, dude. It's bad.
Well,
like girls, that's why so many guys are struggling because average women think that average men no longer qualify. Like they think that average men are not worthy.
They're all going for the 1%, which they don't qualify for.
Exactly.
What I'm thinking is it's funny because to me, there's never been a time that I can remember where I went up to a girl, asked her for a phone number, went on a few days, and we started dating. Almost every chick I've ever dated for a long period of time, years, didn't want to date me at first.
Yeah.
I'm 5'6", bro. I mean, I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's all kinds of issues here, not to mention my personality. So I've got major issues. It's basically, this is a horrible thing to say. It's going to sound stalkerish. I basically have worn down almost every chick. This chick didn't want to date me.
You're persistent, man.
Yeah, I'm just persistent. It's like, and then we can be friends. No, I don't want to be friends. I'm very upfront. I don't want to be friends.
That's good that you put
and so you lose some of them, sure, but it's the it's the and you've heard me say it's the numbers game. What do you do on the true crime show?
I do that on Sundays.
Yeah. What is it?
So I'll react to cases. So like a case that's trending, I'll cover it. Like yesterday, I did the Jack the Ripper recently got identified by DNA.
Yeah, did you see that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Aaron Kozamoyski or something like that from the Shaw.
Somebody bought on they auctioned off like one of the bloody blouses from one of the victims, and this person went and tested multiple parts of it, and one of the DNAs was a guy that had been investigated, but they could never pin it on him. And so they actually found out, boom, it's him.
Yeah.
Like, wow, all this time. Super
Polish immigrant guy. They identified him because he had been on the list, so that's why it was like a breaking thing because they had him as a suspect. So that was interesting to see that. So I covered the little. I do serial killers all the time. I covered the little Dirk case with the murder for hire. He's cooked. Holy, that's bad.
I'm gonna have something for you soon.
With what?
With the serial killer case.
Oh, which one? I covered them all. Ted Bundy. I could talk about serial killers all day.
You haven't covered this one.
Which one?
I'm working on a book right now.
Okay.
Garth Brooks.
Okay. Who do you think was your favorite serial killer? Not that sounds funny, but
Who's my favorite? It's
or
horrible.
what case do you like the best? I mean,
You
like,
know what? No, I get it. See,
I know that's a weird question to ask, but like,
unfortunately,
you're a true crime guy, so you would get it.
Unfortunately, I think it's probably Bundy because he escaped twice.
Yeah.
Like it's insane that he escaped. Like he kept escaping and stuff, and that he, it's, and it was, oh, this is horrible. This is horrible, bro. Don't do anything with his TikTok. Don't make a TikTok.
I'm literally writing favorite serial killer.
Like he killed all women.
Yeah,
so at
yeah,
least
he
he was
did.
consistent. Like he had a type. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, dark-haired, young college students.
Right.
Ted Bundy. A lot of people don't. I literally mentioned this yesterday. One of the most underrated developments that allowed serial killers to like go crazy, especially because I think in the 1970s was like the decade of serial killer.
Yeah.
Interstate highway systems.
Okay.
Like no one talks about that. Like how Eisenhower implemented it, got the project going. That was instrumental in allowing serial killers to like act almost with damn near impunity. If you look at someone like Samuel Little, Ted Bundy, a lot of these guys utilize the interstate highway system to like kill women in multiple states, get away with it, and quickly go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think Ted Bundy killed women in like 8 or 9 states from Oregon to Utah, Colorado,
Florida,
California, everywhere.
Yeah.
It was interesting, and with Ted Bundy, the interesting thing I think there was a couple of things that made Ted Bundy so memorable. He has multiple states. He escaped twice.
Mm-hmm.
He represented himself. First televised murder trial, and then he got caught. I think it was the first time it was done. Forensic orthodontic. When he bit the chick's ass cheek, like at a college campus when he got caught.
Was it that or was it her breast?
It was her ass cheek.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he had bitten, but they don't even use that anymore. Like that evidence.
The forensic orthodont.
Now they're saying that it's not specific enough.
Gotcha.
So, and there are several people that like went to the whatever gas chamber or whatever it was, electric chair because of that, and now they don't
want to use it.
They don't want to use it.
Yeah, they had overwhelming evidence on him though.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not the only thing.
Yeah, he would have got cooked anyway, and
that.
he had a very like if people look like he had very unique crooked teeth.
They were all jacked up.
Yeah, so it was like even if you say it wasn't him, but like the witnesses seeing him with the stockings,
and he was smart.
Oh yeah,
he was super smart. He was just
his scheme though with the cast. He'd walk up to the girls and hit them upside the head with the crowbar when they turn around. Hey, can you help me with my books? Like,
I can't be laughing at this.
It's crazy. Like how he got away with it for so long. And then
he evolved. Like it didn't start that way.
Yeah.
He first was kind of a spree thing and it was impulsive. And then he went from a disorganized killer to an organized where he had I need a plan.
Yeah.
This is going wrong.
Yep.
I need a plan.
Another guy that was disorganized, fucking chaos, but he became huge was the Night Stalker. He'd break into their house.
He never got organized.
Yeah, he'd break into their house and like kill them with whatever he can find.
Yeah, he didn't even have. Sometimes different weapons. Yeah. Different. Didn't have anything to tie him up. Oh, the other one was.
He'd break in with nothing and just use whatever was in the house. Yeah. It's like I think it was a game to him or something, and they caught him off his New Balances.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
My favorite is Zodiac Killer.
But they never really. They think they know who it is, but they never really.
Yeah, the two main ones. It's either Arthur Lee Allen, because famously, and I know you're probably familiar, but for your audience that doesn't know, Zodiac Killer operated in the late 1960s, early 70s. One of the victims, he shot a couple that was, was a married woman actually, and she was there with this guy on July 4th, back I think in like 68 or 69. He shot them both. The dude survived. And then fast forward like 30 years later, like in the early 90s, a police officer meets him up in Canada, shows him a 6-pack photo array, and he identifies Arthur Lee Allen as the shooter. And then there's a bunch of other things, like he knew the woman that was killed. He used to go to her IHOP all the time. There's a great movie on this called The Zodiac with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, is he the one that ended up having the Zodiac watch?
Yes, he had the Zodiac watch.
So much circumstantial evidence pointing
so much, huge amounts of circumstantial evidence. But there were some other things too that kind of like made people question about it. Like the other thing too that was interesting, and there's this a Netflix documentary on it. I didn't know this. He got a ticket, right, on the day that this couple was violently stabbed by Lake Berryessa. And when they stopped him with the ticket, he had bloody knives in the back. And the knives, he said, had killed some chickens.
Right.
But, obviously we knew that he had stabbed some people before, but they hadn't known about it because it was a rural area. The guy survived. Dude walked, and he said, yeah, well, what did you see? Dude walked up with like a fucking executioner's outfit and tied them up saying, yeah, I just want your car and your money. And then he ended up like stabbing them or whatever. And then he wrote the intimidating letters or whatever. You know, the two main suspects, Arthur Lee Allen and Gary Francis Post, is the one that the cold case files they're investigating. They think it was him because they were able to link him to the Riverside killing of a woman, Bates. I think her name is ridiculous. I can remember this stuff. Bates, because he had violently I think he choked her, stabbed her in Riverside, and there was like glasses left there or shoes, something that was left there that was indicative of a painter or a watch with paint on it. Gary Francis Post was a painter, and the Veterans Hospital that he used to go to was in that area. So they also think it's him. And he was also in other areas where a lot of these crimes happen. But same thing with Arthur Lee Allen. He was in a lot of these places as well. And he had a friend up in San Francisco because when he killed the cab driver, he had a Paul Stein, I think his name was, October 10th, 1969, I think. They shot him. He killed him. And then someone famous, that's where the picture, the famous mugshot comes from, was from the San Francisco shooting. But even though that guy doesn't look like Arthur Lee Allen apparently had a friend that lived up there in that part of San Francisco. There's the Netflix documentary on it is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because it documents how like the kids that were with him, because he was a stepfather, like Arthur Lee Allen kind of like acted like a stepfather.
Oh yeah.
The kids like grew up and figured out that they had been to all the crime scenes.
Right. And he had molested them. He would drug them and molest. Like he was a weirdo.
Yeah.
I was gonna say when we were talking about,
but that case always fascinated me, the Zodiac killer. Just like how then to this day, I think behind Jack the Ripper, the Zodiac killer is the most famous case, serial killer case in America. I think, and then you could put Ted Bundy in third. But
I was gonna say, what about John Wayne Gacy?
The killer clown, that crazy bastard.
Yeah.
How they caught him is wild.
What kills me is the way he would get these kids. He would overpower them. He'd have them handcuff themselves. I mean, you know what I'm saying? He just tricked them.
Because he went after teenage boys.
Right. He would trick them. He'd get them stoned or drunk. Whatever. You lure them back. And then he'd say, yeah, I've got these he'd pull out the handcuffs and he'd say, yeah, you can look. And he'd handcuff himself and say, look, you can, and he would turn around. He had the key. He'd unlock them and be like, yeah, you can get out of them. Here, put them out. I'll show you. Kid would handcuff himself and now you're just fucked.
Yeah.
You're wearing a pair of handcuffs. And they're like, well, how do I get out of them? No, now I'm going to strangle you to death. Yeah. It was just like, whoa.
And with him, the thing with him, he had like sick bastard. So,
and he's buried all the 23 bodies underneath his own house.
Under his body, under his house. And like, cause he had a it was a construction company or roofing, something that he did. But basically, yeah, he would get these like young fit guys, right? Young teenage boys. And he would do this and he always like would bring them in seasonally or whatever. And he would like, they'd go missing. And then the way they caught him was crazy. So the police knew it was him, right? And they're like, for the audience, they knew it was him. So they're like doing all this surveillance on him. John Wayne Gacy, being so arrogant, is like, you know what? You guys want to come in and, it's cold out here because it was in Chicago. You guys want to have dinner? So they're like, yeah, sure. So like he invites the cops in that are investigating him. They're having dinner. One of the detectives goes to use the bathroom. So it was cold as hell. Gacy turns on the heat. And when he turns on the heat,
the smell,
the detective can smell dead bodies. And he's like, and he uses that to draft up a search warrant.
Right.
They go to the judge, get a search warrant, fucking genius. And because he's like, yo, this smell from my training and my experience, I know it's the dead bodies, etc. We have all these missing people. We suspect it's him. He has all this probable cause because they've been investigating him. They get the search warrant. They go, they dig, and they find like 20 to 30 bodies under his house.
Yeah. He killed like 31 or 32 people, but he actually buried 23 underneath the house till he ran out of room.
Yep.
Then they had to
start throwing them in rivers and yeah. He was wild.
Gacy always maintained that there was no smell. By the way, he's always like, there was no smell. That's not true. That really? So the guy made it up, and they happened to find the bodies.
Yeah,
like come on.
Yeah, no, that
you're not burying that many bodies underneath your and only a foot or two under, and there's not going to be some
because
kind
the police
of
had no clue. The police had no clue he buried them there. So like that's the other reason too, because like they knew he was killing them, but they didn't know that he was that stupid to bury them at the house.
Yeah.
So like when he turned the heat on, I think that messed him up. And then who else interesting? I'm trying to think what other cases. Zodiac is my favorite, but yeah, obviously Ted Bundy is crazy.
See, I would exclude Zodiac because they never caught him. They don't really know. That's what bothers me about the Zodiac.
Yeah. There's a good case for Arthur Lee Allen. There really is so much circumstantial evidence on him. The wing walker boots, the size. He was in the military. He served in the Navy. You know, all these different things.
What about BTK?
BTK was crazy too.
Yeah, that one.
They caught him just like for busted nuts at the wrong place. That's how they caught BTK. They caught him that way, and they caught Jack the Ripper. It was semen on the shawl.
Well, what tracked them to BTK was he sent in the floppy disk.
Yes, like an idiot.
Like an idiot.
Yeah, because he first he did it like intimidating, like sending the cereal box with a tied up doll in it.
Yeah,
right. Thinking I'm gonna make a comeback. But what ended up messing him up was the floppy disk is how they identified him. But what really got him is I think his first murder was like in 74, 75 in Wichita. He killed this Hispanic family.
Right, that was fun. Yeah. The cruises or something, or the
Yes, and he murdered this little girl, right? And he obviously he relieved himself, whatever. But he left he left semen at the crime scene. In the 70s, they didn't have the ability to DNA test. I think all they could do was see if it was the blood type. Right. I think was all they had the capability of. But fast forward to the 2000s when he tries to make his return, they had that semen. So when they figured out it was Dennis Rader, they're like, okay, well, we know his daughter's at University of Kansas. So she had went to go see a doctor, like an STI check or something like that. So they go and get her DNA compared to the semen sample from 74. It's a match, and they fucking arrested him.
I didn't know that.
That's how they got him. And then they also got the Golden State Killer that way, the original one, the original Night Stalker. Him too, because he would leave semen at the scenes because he was breaking in. He'd have this famous thing where he'd make the dudes sit on all fours with China, China glasses on their back. And if they moved, he would hear it crash. Then he'd say, I'm going to kill the girl right here.
While he's raping your wife in the next room, he has you do that.
Yeah, he makes them sit on all fours. And that's how we knew. Yeah, like that. And then so they didn't catch him for years. Right. And funny enough, one of the detectives, I guess they had a semen sample from him in the 60s or 70s. One of the detectives that gets the case, one of the new detectives, puts the DNA into one of these 23andMe, and they find a distant relative that had put their DNA in there. So okay, this guy's not old enough to be the suspected person,
right?
But who does he have that's in his family line that's around this age? And they find, I forget his name, it's an Italian name, but they found someone around that age. They went to his house, they swabbed his car door or whatever, and the DNA matched. They fucking arrested him in 2021 or something like that. Crazy, dude. D'Angelo or something like that, I think his name was.
Hey, you guys, thanks for watching the video. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this. Also, we're going to leave all of Myron's stuff in the description box, so you can click on it. You can go subscribe to the channel, follow him. But truth is, you probably already know who he is anyway. But either way, it'll be in the description box. So I really appreciate you guys watching. Please consider joining our Patreon. It's $10 a month. We put Patreon exclusive content on there. Thank you very much. See ya.